guys ready? Good evening, everyone. It being 6 o'clock on Monday, May 18th, 2026, we'll begin the FY27 budget hearing for the Committee of Ways and Means this evening. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and remain standing for a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing for a moment of silence for all those who serve in our military at home and abroad and for their families. Thank you. Clerk Semino, could we have a roll call, please?
Council Berica.
Here.
Council Reynolds is presently not here. Council Flaherty.
Here.
Council Maglio.
Here.
Council Sterling.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. We have no approval of minutes this evening and no old business. Before we get started, I do want to let folks know that next week, Tuesday, May 26th at 7 p.m., earlier start time than normal for the council, there will be a public hearing held on the town budget, the proposed town budget. Public comment will be allowed during that meeting. Between now and then, if you have questions or comments, you can email them to towncouncil@braintreema.gov. I also want to recognize the BCAM team who has been with us through the entire month of May, making sure that residents have access to all the information that the council has. So thank you so much to the BCAM team. And thank you to Director Esmond and Clerk of the Council, Susan Semino, for joining us every single night. I think we're on night 8 or 9, and we are very grateful for your assistance and attendance. So thank you to everybody. All right, with that, we'll begin our hearings for this evening. Is there a motion to take off the table orders 26033, 26034, and 26035?
So moved.
Is there
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, that is unanimous. This evening, we are going to be taking up the budgets for the library, the Department of Elder Affairs, and the police. And then if there's any discussion regarding the overall budget, we will have time for that as well. I also want to note for the library, we do have a second motion to discuss this evening, which is a transfer of funds for the committee. But we will start with an overview on the budget. So I know we have Director Terry Stano and Assistant Director Lori Kavanaugh here this evening. Thank you both for being here. Ms. Stano? And for anybody watching at home, this is on page 20. The library is on page 201 of the budget book. So thank you again for being here. If you would like to start the opening statement, Ms. Stano, the floor is yours.
Yes, thank you. Well, good evening, and thank you for the opportunity to present the proposed FY27 budget for the library. I would also like to thank you for your continued support and commitment to our library. I am Terry Stano, Director of the Thayer Public Library, and here with me is Assistant Director Lori Kavanaugh. I'd like to take a moment to discuss both the successes and the challenges of the library you so generously support. As you may know, certification and state aid funding requires the town meet specific standards for the library, such as municipal appropriation, materials expenditure of 13% of the total operating budget, hours, and personnel. For many years, we've met the standard for certification and the state aid award program, and I'm proud to announce that we will again this year. I'm grateful for the town's generosity and recognize the importance of funding the library to achieve the required appropriations set by the Massachusetts Board of Library Commissioners. Their public library is open 64 hours per week, 6 days a week, most of the year. We have a staff of 26 with 17 full-time and 9 part-time staff members. 8 of our staff are professional librarians with a Master's of Library and Information Science. The library is governed by a board of 9 trustees elected for 4-year terms. The board is a very active board who plays a vital role in supporting the library's budget, approving policies, our mission and goals. Their dedication and support have been instrumental in driving our library projects forward, and I'd like to thank them for their dedication. Jeff Kuntz and Ann Tolan are with us tonight, and Jeff and Ann have been a strong dedication to the library and worked tirelessly along with our dedicated Friends group, advocating on the library's behalf to improve and promote library services. Their advocacy has a direct impact on the quality of life for our Braintree residents. So thank you. The library's mission is very simple. The library is an essential resource supporting lifelong learning, providing quality services, creating connections to the community, and an accessible and equitable environment for all. In FY26, the library focused on staff development, creating a welcoming space for all, and expanding our library presence. Staff participated in monthly training throughout the year, including de-escalation training, learning a wide variety of online tools, a new online calendar system, setting up a new book vendor after Baker and Taylor, who served libraries for many years, suddenly went out of business, implemented a new print system, and the implementation of a new network system for the OCLN network. We have completed the first steps in our space planning project, giving us clear priorities, and we are making progress in phase 2 to create a welcoming, comfortable atmosphere through the rearrangement of our space, furniture, and paint. We have struggled a bit to close the gap to increase our library card holders. However, we are making deliberate strides to continue to work on this goal. Throughout the year, we have partnered with many departments and organizations such as South Shore Plaza, Elder Affairs, the schools, on various programs and services to expand our reach. We have completed the 8,000 FY26 earmark for lifelong learning, and we are working on completing our LSTA grant that we will enhance our weekly English conversation circle program. At the same time, we have and will continue to closely look at how we operate behind the scenes, looking at ways to improve workflow and identifying ways to be more efficient, utilizing staff time while maintaining our strong services. It is important to note that all goals and actions are developed from the library's strategic plan and the annual action plan that is submitted to the MBLC, Mass Board of Library Commissioners. As we work to achieve our goals and have successes, we have our challenges with working with individuals in our community that are experiencing housing instability and spend most of their days at the library, many who face mental health or addiction struggles. At times, the library is also a space where families facing difficulties at home visit the library as a neutral space for visitations. These are not the roles people always associate with libraries, but they are part of our daily reality. Our staff works hard to balance the wide variety of needs. The fast-evolving pace of technology, the shift from physical to digital materials, and the need to continually adapt can be at times very challenging for staff. Staff members have varying levels of skill, and balancing these changes while still managing the everyday responsibilities can be a challenge. These are issues we continually discuss and work to address. Another unique feature of the library is that we serve everyone. The library doesn't just focus on the needs of one group, such as children, teens, or older adults, or families. We serve everyone in our community. Our staff remain focused on trying to meet the needs of every individual who walk through the doors. Individuals may be entering the library to attend a program, find a quiet place to study, meet a friend, get a recommendation on a book title, reserve a program room, or use the computer to fill out a job application. Each transaction, the staff remain focused on meeting the needs of these individuals. I'd like to share with you by paraphrasing an email I received thanking our children's room staff. Hello, I'm writing to let you know how much I appreciate the outstanding work of the children's library staff. After a visit to the library, while one child was participating in an art class, our other child happily checked out books. I felt compelled to express my gratitude. Over the years, it's become a special place for our family, somewhere they can relax, discover new books, and participate in many engaging activities offered. Even now, as middle schoolers, they still love going because of the welcoming and supporting atmosphere cultivated by the staff. I credit much of that love of reading to the environment and encouragement they have consistently received from the children's room staff. Their dedication has not only benefited my children, but the many children and families throughout our town. As the Mass Board of Library Commissioners' agenda for FY27 emphasizes, it all starts at the library. As we look ahead for FY27 and continue to work towards our goals and follow our strategic plan, it is important to remember every program, every partnership, every library service offered is about connection, access, and it all starts at the library. So thank you. And I'll be happy to answer any questions you have on the FY27 budget.
Thank you so much, Director Stano, and I'll just offer up, before I open it up, how true it is. My 20-year-old is home for 2 weeks from college. He got home on Thursday night, and his chosen activity on Friday, Saturday, and today was to go read at the library. He
so
didn't
happy to
want to
hear
check
that.
out the book. He wanted to be at the library. Reading, picking up where he left off over spring break. So it
Wonderful.
must be a very thick book. So thank you for all you and your team do.
Thank you.
With that, I will open it up to the committee for questions or comments. Anybody want to start us off? Shirley, no. No? I will if
I
you
will
don't.
make a
Go
comment.
ahead.
I was looking with interest at the trends around collection usage.
Yes.
And the first row is like collection usage. And I was like, what is happening? People are using less books. This is terrible.
Yeah. But
And then I noticed that the e-content usage is like way, way up.
yes.
So overall, our community's engagement with literature through the library is increasing. And that is because of the excellent work that you've been doing. And also because of the, it looks like there's been an expansion of library programs offered. And I know that those vary in, hugely in their theme. There's Scrabble night and movie night and teen organizations and children's opportunities. And I guess I'm interested in, like, is this a deliberate effort on part of the library to make our library a more central part of our community? And then we're seeing the increase in collection usage as like a byproduct of that? Tell me what you think of that.
The library's changing, right? The world is changing. How people use the library has changed. It always has been changing, but COVID sped up that process. So electronic resource that might have taken all our libraries in the area a few years to catch on really did it in 1 year. And once people learn, once people find a new place to spend their discretionary time, it's the same as once people discover a new way, after they get over maybe the anxiety of it and get online and see the ease of checking out a book, it does change their pattern. So when that happens, we look at then ways internally to figure out so we don't get left behind, right? We're always trying to move forward and meet the needs of the community. So when we see trends or try to figure out trends, or even if the trend's not there, we just constantly discuss with the board, with the assistant director, with the librarians that we meet with regularly, how do we meet the needs of the community? How do we support what is changing, and where do we put our money? So that's when we make a deliberate effort, which seems very easy, but it's not, because librarians historically are about collection development and looking through their resources, their professional resources, to do collection development. And then they have to switch to taking what they're used to doing historically and finding a new way to do that and taking that money with them to do it. So it's a deliberate effort made by the Board of Library Trustees and administration of where to put the funding, and it is to put it into digital resources, because physical is not going out like it was. It's still our main source, Physical, if I pull out the electronic, is still 223,000, still goes up. Electronic is getting up to close to 100,000, but it's getting, you're going to see the balance there. So an electronic is extremely expensive. You could buy a book for $25 and leave it in the collection for years and years and years. When you buy electronic, it's probably about $80 to $100, and it gets 8 circulations, and then it removes itself, and you have to go in and buy it again. So it's very expensive, so we switch our resources over. So yes, it's deliberate. It's not always easy. And then on top of that, if people aren't checking out physical and they're mostly online, how do we get them into the library? So then we start looking at our programming. And that has been an effort, and I have to give a lot of the credit to Laurie Kavanaugh. She comes from a background of a lot of programming, and she's been able to get our librarians together and push for more programming. How do we do that? And it's showing. So one thing to mention is there's only 8 librarians, and 2 of us are administration. So that means all the work is done by 6 librarians. You lose 1 librarian through retirement or illness, and they're out for a period of time. It does affect everything. So the numbers are very fragile. We could have a year that we have a retirement and someone is out sick for a period of time. Programming can't be done. There's just not enough people to do that. So then it may affect the trends, but we make a valiant effort to do what we can. Yes.
Well, I think you're doing an excellent job.
Thank you.
You for that thorough answer to my question. I appreciate it.
You're
That's all I
welcome.
have.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Any other questions for the library staff? Did you have a question, Counselor? Okay. I have a couple questions, and I think you partially answered it in your response to Counselor Flaherty. So in the actual numbers that are reflected in the budget, the library materials and library supplies, it's not tons of money, but they're both down.
Yes.
Library materials does that not include the digital books?
So what we do, so we have to spend 13% of our budget on library materials. We're very lucky here in Braintree that 11% of that budget is covered by my operating. The other 2% we take out of various so it can come from my state aid. It comes from the trustees at times can buy us. Sometimes technology is included in that. We have the Friends of the Library who do lots of fundraising, and they support us. So the 2%, and then we have our revolving. So at times you'll see the budget when there's a little extra, I can put it into library materials. But when there's tight budget years, we get the money from other areas. So, but consistently, even over time, I imagine if you looked back, and it's about 11% that the town always supports, even if it goes up and down. Because when you do a 3-year average, the budget always goes up. And then that means the material spending goes up. So this year it's $216,988. So, 160,000 will come out of one current topics and titles, 16,500 comes out of another, and we make up the other through various other funds. So yeah, it does go down and up. Supplies is a tough one because we need supplies to run the library, and then there's supplies that go for the public. So that budget was hit a little bit this year. We can make up, but some of the difference with state aid that we have. But we've also put in a system that they don't just order supplies anymore. Everything has to be approved. And that has reflected a little bit better efficiency. Mm-hmm. Now, we might be able to do that for a couple of years and then realize, like, ooh, this is just too lean, and then maybe up it a little bit. But we've been able to run, the last couple of years, I believe the supply budget has been down. But we've made great strides in being very efficient. Now, it's lean, but we're able to do it. And then the years that if we start realizing we can't, then I'll look and we'll up it if we need to, but.
Okay, and are you seeing any, has the state aid remained stable?
So far it has. So state aid, that is the reward, the small initiative that we get for you supporting the library. Libraries are having a very difficult time this year. You're probably hearing it on the news that they're having budget deficits and they're going straight to the library and they're cutting the library budget. So the state aid doesn't cover all of the operating budget. So some towns are like, well, it's not that much. But for us, it's a dual purpose. It is a small initiative, and we use that money for various things. We're going to use it for the space planning. We use it for supplies. We use it for everything. The other thing is, if you don't support it, reciprocal borrowing, which is what is mostly affected, if we don't make our state aid, then reciprocal borrowing doesn't happen for residents of the town. And that is really what is the most important, is the reciprocal borrowing. So we're grateful, because I'm hearing a lot of stories out there. So I'm very grateful that you make the state aid, work and award us our operating to make our MAR so that we can be certified.
Yeah, and I
It's very
will
important.
we're up to 12 cents per person per day, better than last year, which was 11 cents per person per day for the library. The absolute best bargain in town, but I do want to acknowledge for many years we have been barely squeaking by to make and I think we're $11,000 over this year rather than 200.
We are. So I do try to keep it close to the MAR. So because it's a 3-year average, and at times that can make it you keep adding thousands and thousands. That 3-year average gets hard. I think it's a 1.5%, but some years it can make it difficult to reach. So I do try to keep it as close to the MAR as possible. We try to be as efficient as we can and run the library. So, and we do have other resources that we rely on. So the last 2 years have been lean, and as things become better, we hope that we also reap some of that benefit. So, yes.
Well, I don't think there's ever enough money for the library. And when I think about the populations you serve, from infants to elderly, it is truly a place for everyone in the community. And so I appreciate your management of the funds, and also it's super important to keep those growing.
Yes.
Because we can't serve our community without a robust library. And I really hope the future will portend a 7-day-a-week opening year-round, because we're worth it.
Yes.
Our residents are worth a 7-day-a-week library.
And I have those numbers for you, but we can discuss it next year.
I just had a couple other questions, unless anyone else. Oh, Counselor Maglio, please go right ahead.
Thank you. I found my notes. Last year, I think there were a couple of positions that were reinstated, going from 24 to 25. Are you staying at that staffing level?
Yeah, we're pretty well staffed. I'm not sure. I don't remember. Maybe some people had left. We might have just been in a period of a posting. It was unfilled, but it was posted. So we are staying at the staffing level that you see. However, we do look at workflow continuously. That may change. Libraries are really changing, and people need to stay busy. They want to stay busy. They need to stay engaged. And so we need to have the work for them. And work is changing. So we take the time to, really look at our workflow. I feel that we're going to stay at this level, but people's positions may change. Their tasks may change. Things they do may change. Our pages that are I'm not sure if you see, but our pages, that has been really affected. We had maybe 8 at one time. It's not, if physical books is going down, but the library's still busy because electronic and programming, their sole job is just to put away the books. So if there's not that much there, then we don't need to fill the position. So that's the one that's been probably at this point hit the most, the most change that you can see. So I anticipate that the staffing level will stay the same. We're open 64 hours, 9 to 9. Those hours need to be covered, but we will look very, very closely at the workflow, and when people leave, really look at how those positions may need to change. So we do that constantly. So you may see a change, but for
But
right
any
now.
changes right now, if we were to see them, it's planned,
Yes.
they're positive changes.
Yes.
They're based
Yes.
on
Lot of thought.
reflexive kinds of
Yeah,
moves.
we do not do anything, everything that is done is very deliberate and very thought out and discussed with the board. And we look very far ahead. Like, it's never just,
Well,
it's very deliberate.
It's very much appreciated, so
Thank
thank
you.
you. Thank you both very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Did you have anything to? Okay. Just 2 other questions. The first, I think, is quick. On the FY27 goals, there's an acronym that reads Process to Exploring Vendors Through MHEC Contract. What is-
MHAC, Massachusetts. So it's the MHEC contract. I'm
What does
not
that
sure.
stand
I'd have
for?
to ask Lorraine in Massachusetts.
I want to say
Higher
higher ed
education.
consortium.
Yes.
Consortium. It's a purchasing consortium.
It's a purchasing.
Oh, it's a
So
purchasing
already been
consortium. Okay.
vetted. Yeah, so it's already been vetted from the vendors.
I got it.
So we have switched the way we were going about phase 2, which was to put out an RFQ.
Got it. Okay.
And that is a lot of money. So we are now, with the board, we have a building committee, and looking very thoughtfully at vendors, and meeting vendors, and from that, choosing the type of furniture and things that we want to use. So it's a way to cut back on cost.
Yeah,
Yes.
no, thank you for that. And then following up on your comments, and as well, it's in the FY26 goal updates, is regular monthly trainings on topics such as de-escalation, working with vulnerable populations. And I'm wondering if, with the community of everybody having access to the library, is this something that your team's partnering with the Family Services unit on, or do you have the skill set, I imagine, is extremely different.
It is. So I can let Laurie talk a little bit about this too if you're wanting to, but we subscribe. Laurie does a lot of the picking out of, choosing, I should say, of our training for the staff. And we do it, we subscribe to a database from a gentleman out in LA who runs a homelessness shelter. And we get trainings that come through virtually, and we sit down and we watch them. And then with that is other types of training. So at times we have, so when we do our professional development, Laurie plans the agenda for our professional development day, which happens once a year. So we always include some type of staff training. Last year we had Aspire, we did Narcan, always a human resource sort of issue, and then we move on to other things. So we have used, I think Lynn Frano did come and talk to us one time. Do you want to add, Laurie? Go ahead.
No, it's just, it was one of our goals, was to try to improve a little bit on our staff training. We get new staff, and also people need refreshers on a lot of things. They did learn it at one point, and they might have forgotten. And also just because we want everybody to feel confident in their positions and their roles, and to know how to handle situations that might arise.
It's a lot of anxiety for staff who are dealing with people that are struggling with addiction and mental health issues. it's for them, it can be a little anxiety provoking. So we give them tools to make it easier and techniques.
Well, with all that you have going on and to continue to be the welcoming, open, accessible, inclusive resource that you are, I think the community owes you and your entire team and the trustees a huge debt of gratitude.
Thank you.
Because it really, both geographically and in other which ways, the heart of the community. So thank you for everything that you and the team does, and please pass that along.
I will. Thank you.
Any other questions on the budget? Okay, don't go anywhere. We also have this evening for the library, and I don't know, Director Stano, if you want to discuss this, or if Director Esmond, we do have a memorandum of agreement, and this is Order 26038. Everybody should have it in their packet. Transfer funds to implement terms of agreement with Braintree Library Staff Association, the BLSA, or take up any action relative thereto. I believe this is just a funds transfer, Director Esmond?
That's correct, Madam Chair. So under Chapter 150E, whenever we reach an agreement with a successor agreement with an existing bargaining unit, we need to, the mayor will then file an appropriation with, for the review of town council and approval. So that's, the motion would transfer, and essentially that, the adoption of that appropriation by town council will make the agreement essentially in effect. We did, after many months, reach an agreement, after several months, reach an agreement with the Braintree Library Staff Association, a team of Terry, Lori, myself, HR, legal, over probably, I would say, 6 months or so, negotiated at various, points. Having completed that, having it been reached a written memorandum of agreement, that and subsequently being ratified by I think unanimously by their membership, we've now filed that motion. And I can just summarize quickly for the members on the committee. I think probably the most notable thing is that this agreement is consistent with others that have been reached for the same period, in that the COLA, or the across the board, if you want to call it that, increase for wages is at 2.75%. There are a few other changes we did. We reached with this group. One of the important things we have tried, I think I've noted in previous presentation, was to try as best we can to have more uniformity across our units. So we successfully agreed with them to modify the vacation schedule. They had a much more specific one, so we're now using one that's consistent with other units. Hopefully trying to bring a little more rationality for HR, and rather than managing so many different schedules for vacation accruals. We have also another important thing we bargained and took a bit with them, some back and forth, was we modified the credible service term and modified the accrual of vacation for the accrual time that's awarded to staff that are initially part-time employees and eventually will move up through promotion or just sort of changing in their life. Now they can take a full-time position. That was something that probably required several meetings of going back and forth and data being exchanged. So we reached an agreement on how those would be treated, and that's probably very unique to the library. They will have part-time employees that will eventually become full-time. We don't have a lot of part-time employees in the town, but the library is probably the exception. We negotiated a few other components, modified the bereavement leave terms, probably to keep reflect some of the more updated instances that have occurred from time to time that the union was seeking. We also agreed to increase the conversion from sick to vacation benefits when there's a substantial sick time. And then probably the only other thing I would probably have note is we did agree to some changes on the shift differential in instances where a staff person will be working at an hour, working over hours that are, we have agreed to pay them a differential rate because of the time frame, the time in which it is, and time and day it is. So overall, I would say that we feel like, they were pointed, but always, cordial meetings and discussions. And while it took a few months to get to agreement, I hope to speak for all sides that we were satisfied, and hopefully that's demonstrated by the fact that it was unanimously ratified by their membership. And certainly I know we'd be happy to answer any questions.
And it's a $27,000 transfer from finance administration to library department, so that was held over for contractual reasons?
Correct. So there's an appropriation in the 26 budget under the finance department for collective bargaining agreements once reached. So what this does essentially is transfers 27,000 from correspondingly for the 2.75 from the finance department to the library department to fund it. And then in 27, the library budget reflects the agreement now. Yes.
Thank you. Any questions on the MOA? Okay. Clerk's meeting, do we do that at the end, the motion at the end, or do we do it now?
You might as well do it now while they're
Okay.
here.
Can we do the motion now for this then?
Okay, motion 26038. The sum of $27,000 to be transferred from the Finance Department / Administration Program to the Library Department payroll accounts, provided that the Director of Municipal Finance is authorized to allocate said sums to and among various accounts affected thereby in such amounts as are proper and required.
Is there a second? Second. All in favor? Aye. That is unanimous. Thank you very much. We do also have a revolving fund. Thank you, Clerk Semino, for the reminder for the library. $45,000 from the library trustees for library materials, $5,000 from library room rental, and I think those are the two. Are there any questions on the revolving funds? That's on page 7 in our packets, the handouts from Sue. No? Okay. Are you all set, Councilor Maglio? Okay. All right. Thank you so much. And thank you to Jeff Kuntz and Tolan for joining us this evening as well, and for your service.
Thank you very much.
All right. Next on our agenda this evening, we will take up Department of Elder Affairs. Our Director Sharmila Biswas is with us. Thank you so much for being here this evening. And this you'll find on page 183 of the budget books. So welcome, Director Biswas. If you would like to give any opening remarks, please go right ahead.
Well, thank you. Can you hear me? Thank you for having me this evening to present my budget of $346,263. And of course, my name is Sharmila Biswas, and I represent the Department of Elder Affairs. In between, if my voice gets hoarse, it is allergy. I really am suffering from that, so please excuse me. So I have to say the staff size and the money allotted to us, it seems like we are a small department, which we are, but the work we do for the older adults in this community, I think it's nothing small. We go above and beyond. And also, we are a public agency, and we deal with the public 5 days a week, sometimes even on Saturdays or Sundays. So we do offer all the services we can. As I said, we consider ourselves advocates of older adults, and for that we will do many things. Recently, we did go to the State House to lobby for Older Adults Day. There were thousands of people from AARP, Mass Councils on Aging, and American Society on Aging. We went to see our senators, Senator Keenan and Driscoll. They opened their doors and welcomed us. We talked about how we need more money and thanked them for all the grants we get. Representative Cusack's office was a little hard to find, but we did find, and Councilor Sterling was there. We chatted a lot about the recent happenings in Braintree. Also, we were a little worried about South Shore Elder Services, which has 11 towns and it services our older adults. It is going to migrate into Old Colony Elder Services. And we had a couple of meetings, and this morning we had another meeting about how it's going to move and how it is going to affect our older adults. And looks like they have a grip on things, Old Colony Elder Services. And we can call AGE, the Office of Aging and Independence in the state, and we can also call them if we have other discussions. When we talk about Department of Elder Affairs, I think I can talk about 3 things which we deliver is very important. Transportation. We provide transportation. I believe if we did not have transportation, people who are frail and lives alone and cannot drive, they wouldn't remain healthy and independent without our services. We drive them to their medical appointments, and we also take them grocery shopping. We also take them to the Boston hospitals, but that's through a different grant from, it was a Title 3B, which we used to get from South Shore Elders. So we still don't know how that grant is going to come. But recently, 10 of the towns we lobbied, and we wrote a grant to the Department of Transportation. And our Mayor Joyce had a support letter, and we are going to get some money so we can still go on providing rides to the people who need transportation to the Boston hospitals. If and only when the transportation money stops for the Title 3B, that we get to contract South Shore Community Action. Please excuse me. Outreach is another important service we provide to our older adults. These are lonely and frail older adults who need services, cannot get out of their house, so our outreach staff regularly visits them in their house and also their family members to provide the services they need, information and knowledge. The family members also get a lot of help from outreach. We have a couple of programs from the outreach, which is the Library Express. That is, we coordinate with the library and take magazines and books to people who are avid readers but can't really afford to go to the library. Another is the Friendly Visitor. She goes to people for companionship who are very lonely and just to see how they're doing. And also we have the Asian outreach, which is also for older adults who are Asian, has language difficulties. We have a coordinator who's excellent in English and Chinese. So she helps and she coordinates that group. All these 3 programs, the staff are paid through a state grant, and it is running well. Also, I think many of you know in December, we have something called a gift tree, which we put outside our patio, and it has little tags of necessary items like shaving cream, sweaters, cat food, things like that, and we have it outside on our patio. And it is given every time the Christmas is given to us by the highway department. We thank them for that. People take the tags, neighborhood comes, and then they give us the gifts unwrapped. And I would say a week before Christmas, outreach wraps those gifts and gives it to the people who actually needs those things. They're simple gifts, but they need it. And also these people have nothing in Christmas morning, so they can open a gift in Christmas. So that makes us happy. The last is our program and activities. We are really bursting at our seams with so many programs. Exercise, we have 5 days a week. There are 5 instructors, and also now we have started doing exercise on Wednesday, people who has low mobility. There's an arthritis exercise instructor. He started with 10 people and he wanted to stay there, but he can't. There are 20 people, but he are turning away people because of safety reasons. So we are doing a lot of other things, and last year, a highlight would be the walk at Pond Meadow. 200 people showed up. Department heads, I asked the mayor if that could be a department head meeting, and everyone showed up. This is all from donation money. All the people who invite are vendors of community services near, around the area. They come, they give us like $100 a table, and we buy T-shirts and other things, and people really have a good day, and they also get a T-shirt. We have started a senior safety fair, which is fire, police, banks, library, Rotary, they all come together, and we provide many classes, all on senior safety. We did that. This will be, if we do it again, this will be a 3rd year, and it's a successful program. And also we have dementia education. My dream is to make Braintree a dementia-friendly community, but that's a long way to go because everyone needs to come. I invite businesses to come to all the education, but usually they don't come because I guess they don't have the time. But I have been with the Alzheimer's Association for a very long time, and they help us with that. They come, they don't charge anything for the speakers. And also we have caregivers who bring their loved ones for a simple meal and some simple songs and dances. That is, if we call it a memorable evening. So those are the programs and activities, and we keep thinking of other things, and we will keep on doing something else in 2027.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Director Biswas. That was very comprehensive, and we appreciate it. I will open it up to the committee for questions. Councilor Maglio can lead us off.
Great, thank you very much. Thank you for that presentation, and I want to thank you for all of the work that you do. That is pretty much, that's a lot of activity on a shoestring budget, and it's not easy to continue to make all those things happen. So thank you very much. One very brief question I had. Last year, we talked about there were some federal issues around the South Shore Elder Affairs, and now this year we know that there's been even more changes that have happened. And I'm wondering if there's any direct impact on our Elder Affairs programming.
That's why I have been talking to the mayor. Mike knows about that too. We were notified, I would say 3 months ago, but we were hearing rumblings that, okay, we call a caseworker, sometimes we don't get them, so we knew about this. And then the 10 towns, which is from Hull to Milton, these are the 11 towns under their umbrella. We started having our own meetings, calling South Shore elders, and we were told that Old Colony Elder Services, which is much bigger than South Shore Elders, they're going to merge together. So we started having meetings with them, and this morning was a very successful. I would say we were all satisfied. They said, now these are kind of divided into 2 groups. One is called the AAA, which is Area Agency on Aging. They're the people who give us the grants like the Title IIIB. They have the ombudsman program with them. They have the nutritionist, and Brockton actually has this model. And I work there as the grant person. And then they have Elder Services, which provides nutrition, the home-delivered meals, and home care, which is, of course, huge. So we heard that those are already moving into Old Colony Elder Services. And one important thing they have is protective services, which is suppose a neighbor tells us that the grandson is taking all the money, or the daughter is coming and taking all the food, things like that. When we really think it's a danger to the older adult or if the person is living in a house which is going to fall apart, we call South Shore Elders Protective Services, and they take over. They investigate, they kind of do, but once they take the case, we really don't know much because it's protective. It's, they don't tell us much, but we know things have happened. So that has moved to Old Colony Elder Services also. By middle of June, I think everyone will be moving there, except the AAA, which is the Title 3B grants and ombudsman program. When the fiscal year the federal fiscal year starts, they will all be going to Old Colony Elder Services. But in the meantime, we can still get the title, we can talk about the grants, we can talk about what is happening with the ombudsman program. So they do have a very good plan, and we were kind of satisfied because the CEO of Old Colony Elder Services was in the meeting, and she did explain everything. One question was farmers market coupon. That they didn't know much, but that is very important to our older adults because it's like for $5 they can go to the farmers market and buy produce, fresh produce. We are given fresh produce at the end of August. So those are the things they're still trying to grapple. But since it's coming from the AAA, we can breathe easy until September after that. So we have been in contact with both the organizations. Are we all very comfortable? No, that doesn't happen when there's a huge merger like that. But we will keep in touch with our older adults, and I know we will get reports from the people.
Excellent. Thank you very much. I appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
I'm all set.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Flaherty?
Thank you, and thank you so much for being here with us today. I have reviewed many budgets, and each year, the Elder Affairs budget is very, very lean. And when I visit the Elder Affairs building for events, what I can always see is that you do a fantastic job of building a meaningful community using that very small budget. It's one thing if all we can give you is playing cards and you say, let's have a bridge club, and you get everybody together and they're playing bridge. Well, that is success. And I think that you've been very creative in numerous ways to build a vibrant senior community with what you have. And I really admire that. And when I talk to seniors in the community, there's kind of two attitudes that I encounter. And one is, people love it. It feels like home. It's comfortable. They like it there. And that's immeasurably valuable. And then there are other people who compare it to other communities where there's a larger senior center with more offerings and perhaps improved facilities, and they ask, why aren't we more like them? And so my question is, if your budget, in an imaginary world, because this is your budget, and so we can see what you're doing with your budget this year, and that's how that's going to proceed. But if your budget was greatly increased, where would you focus your resources? Where would you expand? Where would you focus your resources on expansion? Because I know that Braintree is an aging community, and our need for the services of Elder Affairs is not going to decline. So where would you put those resources if you had much more?
If you really ask my dream, I'll do a second story in the building just to increase the space. Because what we are finding is our space is not that big. We have one big room. We do everything in there. But of course, things are limited because we cannot do any big program because exercise is taking up the big room. So I would like more space, but I don't know where we are going to build more except go up. That is one thing. Transportation happens, it's a very good question. Very good offer. I can dream a lot of things. And also, I think transportation, we will, instead of going for grants, we could buy more buses because there is a gap. We know that. There's a gap with transportation because people like to go visit the graves, and we cannot do that. People like to go to their banks. People like to go to their hairdresser. We have a fantastic van driver who will do a lot of things above and beyond. We would maybe have more vans for doing programs like that, like, things which we cannot provide. The ride by the MBTA does provide services like that, but for that you have to wait an hour to go somewhere, and you have to wait an hour to be brought back to your house. So that might be one of my dream projects we can do. We can bring in more entertainers who, usually I always collaborate with the library, and the grants, the earmark grants we usually do our programs with that. So that we do buying vans, bringing some more drivers, going up a second story, that would be, and have food with everything. That will bring the people, and we do offer with our grant money, we do have food. We offer food, a lot of food with entertainment, but maybe we will do breakfast, one day just free breakfast. Maybe one day we already do that, but we will do it more. So those are my dream thoughts.
So it's wonderful to hear that kind of a vision. I guess I'm curious, if you had more space, what would you, because it sounds like what you're saying is that your large room is dominated often by one activity, maybe just exercise, which is
in the morning.
Critical. So what would you do with your expanded space? What other activities would you be able to offer in that case?
We will do more exercises because I know people are looking for more exercise. They also want to do Zumba. They also want to do low mobility exercises. As I said, we started one on Wednesday, 1 o'clock, and that's not in a big room. It's a smaller room, and he, for safety concerns, doesn't bring in too many people. So I know we can do line dancing, which people want to do and think it's a form of exercise. So those are things we can just do many more exercises and bring in more programs, which we sometimes can't do because of the limited space. But also I have to say, if we do too many programs, people get upset because suppose someone is doing knitting on Thursday, 1 o'clock. We bring in a big program. They are not happy because, then they can't go do both. So there are restrictions of having too many programs, and also we would love to do more programs, especially exercise. And we have a hairdresser and not a podiatrist, but who does nails. She comes in once a month, Friday. Maybe we will have her more because we will have that extra space. So it's just beyond, we can just keep on imagining and do it if we have more space.
Well, that is very exciting to hear about. I think that as a community, we should be giving these kinds of ideas consideration, and to consider them at all, to know what something can be, you have to talk about it first. So I wanted to give you that opportunity, and thank you for filling my head with all of the things that the center could be if Braintree could find a way to fund it. That's all I have. Thanks.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Reynolds?
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Director Biswas. You've done a great job, and you're very consistent, and we're very fortunate that you are running our Elder Affairs Department.
Thank you.
So I'm glad the questions that were asked prior, particularly what your biggest needs are if you, in a perfect world, if you could get what you wanted. I wanted to focus a little bit on, I mean, 'cause I agree with those, by the way. Space is the big facilitator for expanded services and in the way that you've described them. There's also, I know that just you're challenged every year in certain areas. You spoke about 3 very big types of services that Braintree Elder Affairs provides, and that being outreach, the Asian, I think it was language assistance.
Asian outreach is because we have a lot of
Right.
Asian older adults, and I started thinking about it, if you can believe it, in 2009, because we could see the need, but I did get grant money, but we got it in March and we had to finish it in June, so it was not really productive. Finally, we got a 3-year contract, and now with the coordinator, they usually learn English. They also, it's kind of their social gathering too, and then we will bring in speakers for them who can speak Chinese, for like a dentist or a health insurance counselor, things like that. So they have their own group, and my big thing is to merge them with the mainstream and do some things like when they can also attend, because language is a barrier. And so Kim does help, and I have to say, Kim, who's the coordinator, also helps us with translation. I know once she helped Mike with someone who was not really understanding to how to pay his bills, and she was there to help him out.
Outstanding, and it's difficult enough to talk about property tax issues when you don't have a, sort of a language challenge, but she handled it very, felt 150% supported in dealing with a tricky situation with the resident.
So, and then also when we have transportation we have to provide to someone's parents who really doesn't know English, Kim will take over that phone call and figure out what to do. So she does not only do the group, but she's also helping us help the diverse community that we have in Braintree.
Okay, so, and the third item was rides.
Was
The third item
Programs.
was as in terms of your 3 biggest services that you provide. And of those 3 services, primarily they're funded through grants?
Yes, most of them, like especially the outreach, all our part-time staff is paid through the grant, the formula grant. We have 7 part-time employees. They work part-time and they only work till 19 hours. So they are all paid through grant, and the programs you're talking about, like the walk, we usually coordinate, and I have to say town departments are awesome. Whatever we ask, we get it. We coordinated a lot of things with the library. So it's not only grants, but collaboration with people, departments in town.
Great. And I guess one of the things that I'm curious, the numbers must be growing, particularly
Yes.
in the rides,
Yes.
significantly. With, it was also mentioned earlier by another member that the demographic of older residents
growing.
is significantly grown. And with that, there's more of a need. There's more of a need because even with the larger growing demographic of folks over 60, it's also a demographic that is much healthier and active and engaged. So I'm interested in seeing where we could find more money in the budget. I know that space is a #1 priority. There's only so much you can do with the space that you have. I do also note that you are getting a new van, and I would assume then that it's a replacement, or is it in addition to the types of transportation you currently have available?
You're talking about what should we do with transportation?
Well, I had seen here in the budget book that you're expecting a delivery of a new van in
Oh,
June.
yes,
Right, in
yes,
June?
yes.
So with that, does that augment or does that replace?
It was supposed to be, but one of our vans, it drains whenever we use the wheelchair lift. It drains and it has a lot of mileage on it. So we are going to retire that van, and we are going to bring in the new one.
Okay.
And then we can take that out of insurance, and Mike will be very happy, I know that. But we will have the new van. kind of addition, but also I would say augmenting because, with that van, we had to be very careful. Oh, we can't take a wheelchair ride because then the battery will drain. So now we'll have a fresh new van.
But you will
Which
still
is-
be at the same number of vehicles?
The numbers are increasing almost
I'm sorry,
by
I
leaps
just...
and bounds.
So the rides will increase?
Yeah.
But the number of vehicles you have to provide that service for the rides will remain the same?
Will remain the same, but sometimes I would say it will increase too.
The number of vehicles will increase?
No, not the number of vehicles, the riders.
Right.
Riders, yes. And also with some earmark money, which we were lucky to get, we are thinking of buying a minivan, which is again replacing the older minivan we have.
And
Those
that truly would be an augmentation
Yeah.
of your
Yep,
vehicles
vehicles,
available
yeah.
for the
Because,
ride.
sometimes with the older vans, the AC may not work, and like a day like this, if your AC doesn't work, you are in trouble. So augmentation and helping with all our transportation crew. And I have to say, we have a very small group of staff, but everyone goes above and beyond, and I can't say more about our van driver, the full-time person, Frank. I know he does things which he's not supposed to do, like go and open the doctor's doors for the person who cannot find the doctor's office. He's not supposed to do that, but he still does it because it's hard. It's a human thing. If there is an older person who cannot walk very well and can't find the doctor's office, you do that. So I just say, Frank, just don't tell me what you're doing. But he does a fantastic job, and sometimes people will only ask for him to take a ride. So,
Okay, thank you. Well, thank you, Frank. And just one last question. Is there any other languages that you find a need for translation other than Asian? Or I should say Chinese in this case, because there's a larger population of Asian.
Chinese, we have translated because when I do usually newsletters, like when we do the Chinese New Year, or we are talking about the Lunar New Year, we will ask her to translate that. Long time ago, we had some, but this is few years back, people had wanted to have a Spanish class. And we did that, and people said, oh, there are a lot of Spanish-speaking people. But once we did the class, we really didn't see that much of a response.
Okay.
But if we see, we will find a teacher and we will do it.
Okay.
So, but right now, I think Mandarin, Sichuan, Cantonese is one of the most needed and identified language in Braintree.
Well, thank you for your answers and providing the information and insights. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Counselor. Are you all set, Counselor Sterling? Okay, I have a few questions. One of the things that we've been discussing throughout these hearings is the goals and the measurements of the goals, because as I stated last week, we rely very, very heavily on the information that's in these books to provide to residents. And as I looked at the FY27 goals, I think they bear a little bit more explanation. So goal number 1 is building improvements. And then you have a three lists, which includes, you write, the floor is crumbling in the front entry, the walls are moist with rain and snow, the main door does not open and shut properly, new lighting is required, room 5 needs glass panels, a coat of paint. And when I look at that goal, and then I look at what's in the budget for building repairs, which is $4,300, I'm trying to understand how you expect, what's your plan to accomplish that goal?
I do have a plan.
Okay.
2 years back, because Mass Councils on Aging also comes out with service incentive grant. And they have, you can do this, you can do that. And one was modernizing the senior center. So Mike McGarty was around then, so talking to him, I asked him, how much would we need? What can we do to the front entrance? Just change the linoleum, maybe have the door, which is pretty old at this point. The door, you press the button, and then it opens and closes. So I talked to him. He said, around 25,000, and I wrote a grant for that, for the Mass Councils on Aging, and my pride was kind of hurt because usually that doesn't happen, but that grant went to people because there are councils on aging where the building is falling down in many places, so they gave the grant to that. But this year, I'm thinking of trying that. Also, we are lucky to have some earmark, which we can use towards cleaning up that, and also we have some building repair money from the town budget. So that is my plan.
Okay, so there was nothing in the capital budget, if I
No.
recall, for elder affairs.
Yes.
So when would you find out if you were a recipient of this grant for the building?
I would say maybe by September.
Okay, and is the 25,000 still sufficient
I
to
might
cover?
know. I might work with Justin and find out how much more is needed because prices have gone up. So this is my goal because I really want the front entrance to look more welcoming than it is because this is a building which is over 70 years old now.
Oh, no,
So,
I
yeah.
think it's a worthy
So-
goal. I think one of the concerns that this committee has raised with other departments
Mm-hmm.
is that we want to make sure we have goals in here that are attainable. And so that was, I have, you know, if we don't have a funding source identified that we can count on, I'm not sure that we can achieve this super important goal. And that brings me to number 2, which is to replace the senior van. Purchase of a new minivan. The current van has a lot of mileage and requires repairs and maintenance. So my same question, like, what is our funding source for that goal?
Earmark
Is that
money.
secured?
Yes.
Okay, so that one, that we do have funding for. Okay, that's
And
great.
I do have funding for the improvement of the front. If I don't get that grant, then I have to think otherwise, but I am going to think about writing that grant.
Oh, no, I understand, and
Yeah.
I know you're going to write the grant. I have no doubt about that, Director Biswas. It's whether or not we get it. And then number 3, so I'm just wondering again, going back to some of our prior meetings that we've had with department heads, do you have a goal that is measurable for like the number of people that you want to attend these programs?
Yes. We always, because we have a touch screen and people have a small tag, so whenever they come in for some program, they just swipe the tag and it brings up their name and what activity they are attending.
Okay,
Even
so-
though they
ahead.
always don't do it, but
Okay, but you're not putting the quantifiable, like we want to have 70 people at the Italian Festival, 100 people at Festival of Lights. Is that how you're measuring success?
success, I think we will always measure because we always have those numbers, how many people came to activities or how many people came the whole year. That is how we usually quantify all our things, like rides, we do the same thing, how many people took rides, how many people are coming to a certain program, and how many people came for, so I actually put that as a goal because we just want to do that, and then, of course, I can present to you next year how many people came to that. And I have a feeling the numbers will be rising. And there are certain programs we haven't done, which is the Festival of Lights. People keep wishing me for that, but then one day I thought, how come I've never done that? Because it is a graceful program. We go very high and hard on St. Patrick's Day. So now people are saying, how come you don't do Italian Day? So we are thinking of that. So our goal is to do those things first. And I'm sure if you do it, attendance is no problem. So I think that was my goal first, to do it.
Okay, I think just, and maybe this is feedback for the mayor's office, but to have parity across departments, it's, I would say, pretty important that that everybody's got the same expectations for what their goal setting, how it should be
Yeah.
measured. Because if we don't have a goal, maybe the goal is 100 people, then if we exceed that, maybe it's because our outreach was superb, or if we fall short, maybe we need to do different outreach. Like there's tactics that one can employ to try to achieve the goal, but if we don't have it quantified, which we have been requesting of almost every other department, I just want to make sure we have parity across all departments as we move forward. And I
Okay.
recognize that you're giving us the count. And
If
I
you s-
also think it's important to have, aspirations for what we want for the next year. Beyond just the count, we can get the count.
And if you see
So
the
thank
tandem
you.
matrix, we have 2027.
Oh, yes.
We do
Yep.
have that. And
Yep.
also, I think the reason I put like tangible things, because 2026, I had a lot of goals, but it was more broad. So this one is more like, we are going to do this, this, this.
Well, we will look.
Can we reach all the goals? Obviously, I'm sure right now, but I can report to you next year whether I could do it or not. But right now, I think I wanted something more we can touch and feel, like the Italian festival or something like that. And as I said, event participation, we will definitely try to get the people, the number of people we are thinking of. The only problem, we have a database, but not everyone puts in their tag to put what activities. Even our volunteers, they forget. So that is one problem, but I write it in the newsletter that please, please, please do this. So,
All right. That is all I have for Elder Affairs. I want to say thank you. I also want to recognize our District 4 Counselor, Ann Quilty, who's with us this evening in the audience, who has been a champion for Braintree seniors and has also started the Friends of Elder Affairs group, or helping to get that off the ground. So if you would like to join that group, please reach out to Counselor Quilty. You can reach her through the Town Council office.
I
All right.
don't think
Thank
I
you very
can
much.
join that group, but we will benefit from the group.
Yes. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And I'm glad my voice didn't break.
Okay. All right. That brings us to our police department. Thank you so much, Acting Chief Joseph. We have Mary Kenny, Corey Chambers here with us this evening. And for those following along at home, the police department is on page 137 of the budget book. Thank you all for being here tonight, and thank you for sticking through the first two items on the agenda. Welcome, Chief Joseph. If you'd like to make an opening statement, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. In collaboration with Mayor Joyce, Finance Director Mike Essman, and my finance team, who I would not have been able to be here without, we have prepared a 27 operating budget proposal. This budget was developed with the guidance of the Mayor's office and reflects a thoughtful, level service approach to maintaining the high standards of public safety that the community expects. Our 27 operating budget totals just over $14.7 million, which is a modest 0.2% increase from FY26. The proposal is supported by several appendixes that are part of our submission, and they are detailed year-to-year analysis of expenditures, overtime, staffing, and current grant funding. Our budget remains largely personnel. It accounts for 92% of our budget. Currently, we have 83 sworn officers. We're budgeting for 89 in fiscal '27. We currently have 4 candidates scheduled for the academy this summer. We continue with our recruiting efforts, and we go through whether it's civil service, lateral transfers. We also have a new pathway known as Get Badged, which has been a pleasant surprise for us that is really helping us with our recruitment efforts. We also have to prepare for some of our possible retirements coming up in the next fiscal year as well. And we have to keep that in our in the front of what we have going on here. Our proposed overtime allocation is $1.68 million, which is 6.4% decrease from '26, and it reflects a realistic projection based on our current conditions of staffing. While hiring remains a challenge for most of the profession, we are optimistic that it will help decrease the demands on overtime in the future. The budget also supports continued investments in technology, training, and equipment modernization. During FY26, we put forth some key initiatives such as gunshot detection technology, establishment of a drone unit, expanding our de-escalation training, and we are currently progressing towards the implementation of body-worn cameras. For fiscal '27, some of our goals are to strengthen community engagement, enhance youth outreach, and improve for our information technology, radio systems, and replacing critical safety equipment. We appreciate the committee's time and consideration, and we're happy to answer any questions about our proposal.
Thank you so much, Chief, and thank you to your entire team and all the work of the BPD. I will open it up to the committee for questions. Councilor Maglio, did you want to take us away?
Thank you.
Just the mic, Councilor.
Thank you all very much for being here. I have kind of two different directions of questions, and I'll start off with the first one, which are being asked just as points of information. So if there isn't a quick answer, we can make a note and move on. Like it's not intended to do a deeper dive because, well, for one line, and then for another line, maybe we might do a deeper dive. So let me just go and not keep talking. Okay, so one of the things that I noticed in the budgeting, and it seems as though sworn personnel are in every section, every division. So does that have to do with what type of personnel they are, what type of swearing in they've taken?
Well, the sworn personnel are just the officers, if that's what you're asking. And they're in, whether it's detectives, they could be in an administrative role, or just patrol itself. But I don't know if that's answering your question, but.
It does, and that's because, there are some in the detective division, there's some in the patrol division, that's why that keeps showing up,
Yes.
right? Okay,
Yes.
great. So then, I have a question then about, because there's also a separate patrol bureau, and maybe you could just direct me, maybe Director Esmond, you might want to direct me. Is there, what is the line for you mentioned you're budgeting for 89 FTEs. Is there a line for those 89 FTEs?
As far as positions or spots that they're for, it's to raise our entire manning, our patrol division. When we say patrol, it includes, detectives. These are all one unit. That's all part of the sworn. And we'd like to increase that, especially with as much as this town is growing. So, and that's why that's
Right, and that
trying to
makes
be raised.
perfect sense, because over the past couple of years, what our concerns have been is the amount of overtime that's requested at the end of the year, and we need supplemental budgets because things happen and it takes people's time, and we had some positions that were open or not filled, or we had some cutbacks, and so it's exciting to hear that you're budgeting for a full, and that is an adequate amount that you anticipate for FY27.
That is what we can do with our budget.
That's what we can do?
I would like
Okay.
to, if it was up to me, I would like to get to 90, 95 in the next couple of years. But,
Okay.
I think that's where we need to be, considering the amount of housing that's coming to the town and the amount of the business and the growth of this town. I think that's what we would need to help try and support it and reduce the overtime.
Okay. Another one, this is a quick one. Does ammunition expire?
Ammunition can expire. We never have use it constantly. As we get it, we need it for training. And so we order what we need for the training and what we need to replace what's getting older.
Okay. So the ammunition, 38,000, where do you do that for in some way? It's not like
Training.
okay.
Yes.
The other question I had is around the shift differentials up. So that would seem to be more along bodies, right? Shift differentials if taking
Yes,
an extra
it's
shift
based on,
or-
so it is based on whether it's day, evening, night shifts. Those are where the differences come in.
Okay. Is that like a negotiated kind of?
It is. It's part of the
Okay.
CBAs.
Okay, makes sense. Sure.
Just to give you a more overarching sense of some of the accounts that you see repeated in many of the programs. So there are a number that are tied to the collective bargaining. So those, some examples, well, sworn personnel is the base salary, and then you have shift differential, career incentive, post stipend, accreditation stipend, and education incentive. So those are all tied to collective bargaining. And so an earlier question you had was if there was somewhere in the budget where you might see like the 89 FTEs. Because our personnel are disaggregated amongst the different programs, there isn't just one line that will show the 89, but combined, all of those consistent accounts across the programs make up 89 sworn personnel.
So would it be accurate to say that the full budget of 14.7 that's being proposed for FY27, so 14.7 million, would you say 80% of that is people or 60% of that is people? I'm just trying to get a sense.
92%.
92%, super helpful. Okay. Thank you for that. And I'm just trying to go through all of my quick ones. And I think, the harbor master. That seems really low for the harbor master, 33,000. Is that like a part-time?
It is. So
Okay.
it's not really a harbor master. We have a marine unit, which is made up of actually Lieutenant Chambers and Lieutenant Lyden. So we have, again, people from the entire department, like patrol, that enhance the marine unit. And so it's not one person that's just put in there and budgeted for. It's just the program itself for the marine unit.
Excellent. The last small question I have is about the animal control officer, and I'm curious, I know that he's been doing a lot in my neighborhood because we have all kinds of coyotes being born and running around, and people are very wary of that. But I'm curious about the just regular lost pets, if there's a sense of numbers of how many, or is it mostly wildlife that I know he's busy.
I think it's a little of both, depending on the times of year. I mean, now's the time for, like you said, all these pups, the coyotes coming out. But a lot of them, I think, we have a lot of them in wildlife that gets hit by cars that have to be, tended to, picked up, whatever. But there's just as many lost dogs, cats, whatever it is, pets. But they're, I would say it's pretty even across all those.
Okay, because the veterinary expenses and food and things like that within the animal control, that just seems low. It just seemed very, so I'm thinking.
We don't house many pets, like,
Okay.
especially if someone's lost one, they usually get found pretty quickly. And so there's no
That is
reason,
awesome.
If there is a particular pet that, say, has bit someone that has to be quarantined, then that's usually where we will house it for a short bit.
Gotcha.
Until it's a
Okay.
hearing.
I'm going to pause there and turn it over. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Flaherty?
Thank you. So I was pleased to see that you are replacing some of the sworn personnel with new members. I think that's great. I know that there's a connection between filling out those positions and managing the overtime. And before I continue, I just want to say, your presentation is really data dense and it's very helpful. Like, I got a lot out of that. So thank you so much for the hard work that you put into organizing the story that you want your budget to tell and filling it full of the facts so that I didn't have to do that by reading the charts. Thank you. Thank you. But nonetheless, although I have been doing this for a little while, I'm still kind of a groundling in certain areas. And one of the things I had trouble tracking was how many people do you have working? Because you have the sworn personnel, and then you have your budgeted sworn personnel, and I don't think that number is the same. So just stick with me because I want to tell you what I think is true, and then you can be like, no, actually, okay? You had 85 a year ago, and now you have 83. And then you've budgeted for 89. So that says, okay, we're going to have 6 more. But you have 4 of those are in the pipeline in some way, shape, or form, and then 2 lateral transfers?
No, so we have 4 right now going into the academy. We are working through our recruitment efforts to get 2 more. To get to those, to fill those 6
So you have 2
positions.
outstanding
Yes.
spots. So you have 87 once those 4 get through.
Correct.
Okay, and then, but see, what confused me was that at some point you talk about 4 resignations and 8 retirees from last year, from FY26.
Right, so as people, it's just a constant struggle between people, either whether they resign, they go somewhere else, or they retire, trying to get people back into those positions. It's just a constant challenge. But we still have, we know of we have one person leaving soon. They're going to Florida, so they'll be resigning. We have another couple of retirements that will be coming up. And so we know they're going to be heading out, so, we're going to be right back to square one, and we're going to have to keep continuing this effort.
Right, so that looks to me like you have 12 people who are leaving for one reason or another, and then 4 people coming on. So that's my confusion. How many people are actually working?
If I may,
Right,
Councilor.
yeah.
So we have 83 today, sworn personnel on the books. If you look at Appendix 3 that was provided, that top box, FY26 plus or minus staffing changes, that's sort of the activity from July 1st of last year through today. So it starts with 89. We had 4 resignations and 8 retirements. We hired 2 lateral transfers, and we have 4 officers that recently graduated the police academy, bringing us to 83 sworn today. The box below it for the fiscal 27 staffing forecast starts with our number today of 83. We know we have 6 budgeted vacancies that we already discussed on how we intend to fill. We project up to 5 retirements, and then we would have to fill 5 more to achieve our 89 budgeted sworn FTEs. I don't know if that clarifies things.
It does help, thank you. So as you are, filling these vacancies, there's a lag, though. I mean, it's been described to me many times how there's a lag where somebody first you have to find a viable candidate that you think you want to place your confidence in, and then that person has to go through training. And so these...
Would you like me to explain that
Yes.
process? Okay. So if this is someone we say is not an officer yet, whether it's civil service list or possibly somebody we get badged, if we select these people, we send out letters and they come in, they sign a list. And if, say, we're looking for 3 jobs and we get 18 names for these 3 jobs, we go through, we do backgrounds on these people, which takes a few weeks to do. Once we get those, now we have to set up for interviews. And by the time that process, it roughly takes about, I don't know, 8 weeks between getting the applicants in. They have 2 weeks to get their applications back. Now we have to do the background, which takes a few weeks, and then the setup for interviews, and then it's the selection process. Who do we want to go forward with? And now, at that point, we have to wait and see when is the academy available. Are there seats available in that academy? That could take 3 to 4 months, if not longer, depending on when the academies are going. So once this academy is 6 months process, and once that 6 months is completed, they graduate, now they got to go through 12 weeks of field training with the officers, and then they can be on their own. So it's roughly a year's process. If it's a lateral transfer, someone that's come to the department from another department, they have a little bit shorter time for their FTO, but they can start right away. That's a big difference. Same with Get Badge, this new pathway we have. It's kind of a hybrid model, and with this, with Get Badge, we can get officers, we can say, okay, we can pick and choose, go through here, say, oh, well, this person's already academy trained through the MPTC, and same thing. They fill out their application, we do a thorough background on them, and then if we want them, we can give them a conditional offer. And if it's approved, then they can start right away as well, but go through that same abbreviated FTO program.
Okay, that is helpful.
Okay.
So I'm going to ask a different question about concerning the Family Services Unit.
Yes.
So it looks to me like that unit is supported by a set of grant-funded positions.
Yes.
And those are from the Department of Mental Health. And I know that those positions have been in place for some time. How much confidence do you have that those grants are going to persist long-term?
Well, depending on the governor's budget, which is, a major concern because they are funded through grant funding. The town is not absorbing their salaries, so if they weren't to fund, if the state wasn't to fund DMH for this program, it would put a hurt not only on law enforcement, but the citizens as a whole, anybody suffering with these mental health issues, because there's no place for people to go. We'd struggle with trying to get them, some kind of diversion as opposed to arrest. Arrest isn't always the best solution. Where can we get them the help they need or the services they need? And our clinicians do an awesome job. They often help to de-escalate situations because they see more of a friendly face, not a person in blue. So I'm hoping that the Governor's Council and they go forward with this and continue to fund it the way they have, but we'll have to wait and see.
How long have those positions been I guess they didn't exist, and then they were grant funded, and they did exist, because they've always been grant funded, right?
Yeah, 5 years.
So 5 years.
Yes.
I did a ride along with that unit, and their work is admirable. And the Family Services Unit is older than 5 years, correct?
It is.
Okay, so they used to do the work without that support, and now they have that support, but only through grant funding. Yeah. All right, well, I really think that's, the town may need to look for ways to include those individuals among the personnel that we fund through the town, because it's so important what they do.
It is.
And they really have a lot of cause to be proud of themselves, because I listen to them talk about how they handle people who are really on the edge of doing something catastrophically terrible to themselves or to other people. And then they come in and they just diffuse the situation, and then you stop a crime from happening, and you stop a lot of harm from being done. So it's invaluable work. And very new kind of police work that I think deserves to be supported. And I also wanted to talk about a part of the what I was reading about that is not funded through our taxes, through tax money. We have a set of license plate readers that have been positioned in various places across town, and they are funded in a variety of different ways. I think largely, well, you can correct me, but I think through developers who are building, and so then there's a need for a contribution to the police department because now there's going to be more policing in the area, and so the choice has been to adopt these license plate readers and put them in places. I guess I know that those LPRs have been terribly helpful in solving many, many crimes.
They have.
And I understand why they are so valuable to the department. But they also, in the process of using them, we create a searchable record of where ordinary people travel. And I don't know yet how I feel about that. So it's a new technology too. And that's where, like, when we adopt a new technology, that's where we make mistakes because we've never used it before. And although it's information and not a weapon in the most conventional sense, we certainly know that information can be weaponized and it can be used to harm. So I'm curious, since this seems to be a direction that the department wants to go forward and expand in, what are the safeguards that are being put into place to ensure that the information is only accessed in an authorized way? And what constitutes an authorized way of accessing the information?
Corey? Yeah.
Thank you, Counselor. First and foremost, I obviously agree that they're a tremendous asset to the police department. Speaking from my own personal experience in investigations, has had a tremendous positive impact on our ability to solve crimes and even stop crimes. A couple of sort of misnomers that I just want to point out. I know you mentioned that it creates a searchable record of where ordinary citizens have been. That would be more accurate if there were license plate readers every 100 feet on every street in Braintree, but we only have a handful, and by comparison to other communities around us, we have fewer. So we can't necessarily recreate a person's complete movements around the town using the technology that we have. That being said, that record that is created, which is highly secure, and I will get to how do we prevent unauthorized access in a moment, but that record is only available for 30 days, and then it's purged completely from our systems, and we can't access it, nor can the vendor that we use. I think separately and offline, I would be happy to share a document that we prepared, spent quite a bit of time on it in response to an inquiry by Councilor Maglio that I think would answer a lot of these questions in terms of the data privacy, citizen privacy, and so on. I would also say that the Supreme Court of the United States has held that ordinary citizens do not have an expectation of privacy on public ways, and that's from the highest court in our land. So we are constantly looking at legal updates and court decisions to make sure that we are doing things appropriately and in line with both federal law and Massachusetts law. As far as our own access to the systems, it is tightly controlled. Each member of the department that has access to the system has their own user name and login, so anything that they do is attributable to them and only them. Additionally, as I mentioned, it only provides for 30 days of retention for that data, but the administrators of the program do have access to conduct audits to make sure that there aren't disturbing patterns or trends that would indicate misuse of the technology. Beyond that, we also have a policy in place, and we require that when you make an inquiry for a specific license plate or a specific camera, you have to provide a search reason. It is mandatory. So there's two components of that. One is a drop-down list of a category of reasons why you might be using the system that is provided by the vendor. And then secondarily, you are required to do a free text reason. So for example, if We are looking for a missing person who might be suffering from dementia or Alzheimer's, and they're known to take their vehicle. If we were looking for that vehicle to see if it had hit one of the license plate readers around town or elsewhere, I would have to say, missing person with concerns or something to that effect. And then lastly, if a case number already exists for the call that is directly related to, there's an optional field to enter in the case number. And then anything that a user does in the system is completely tracked, and the audit trail exists longer than the 30-day period. So I hope some of that information helps, and again, we would be happy to share the document that we prepared a few months ago for Councilor Maglio. I think that would also be tremendously helpful to answer some of these questions and concerns.
It does help. I do appreciate that. So I didn't know that there was a way of tracking who searched, and the number of people who can search, that's also conscribed?
Just to clarify, you mean the number of people in our department that can search?
Not everybody in the department is authorized to search at all, correct?
Everyone has some level of access, some greater than others. So for example, detectives have a greater level of ability to query the records because their investigations might bring them out of town or out of state.
Dispatchers do as well.
Okay. And you mentioned auditing. Well, so my first question is this. When you're going to use a piece of information to prosecute a criminal, clearly you must have a mechanism to save that particular piece of information. Yes?
That's correct. If we found a hit, so to speak, from the system on a particular vehicle that we were looking for, it would generate a report. And again, there's no identifying information other than the type of vehicle and a photo of the license plate that is provided by the system. So we can't see who the owner is, who the driver is, or anything like that. We can only see that a particular license plate on a particular vehicle was captured by a license plate reader at a particular time in a particular location. So that it's not providing us with detailed information about an owner or an operator. But that being said, the report.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but
Sure.
You have a license plate database. Like you can know who owns every car.
Of course, and that is also supported by lots of case law that the general public doesn't have a right to privacy on public ways, and the license plates that are on motor vehicles are not property of the owners of the vehicles, they're property of the government. But to your original question about the report, if I want to use a specific result from my query in a criminal case, I can get this report from the system. It will show the latitude and longitude and closest address of where that license plate was captured by one of our cameras. Google Earth, Google Earth or Google Analog image of that location, and the date and time that it was registered on the camera.
Okay, and can you say again how frequently these are audited?
I personally am not the one that's responsible for auditing them, but they're audited at least quarterly, if not more.
Okay.
And sorry, to just add on to that, just a reminder also that while this program, I know there are concerns about it, to date, including this operating budget, no Braintree taxpayer funding has been used to fund the program. And I know that you had asked originally, or mentioned originally, that it seemed like it was largely from private developers where the funding was coming from. To date, no private developers, no cameras that we have in place at the moment are from private developers. They've all been grant funded or equitable sharing funded. But not a dime has been spent out of our capital budgets, operating budgets, or any other taxpayer-funded accounts that we maintain.
Okay, so I understand things much better. I guess So the last question that I have is, you mentioned that we don't have a sufficient number of cameras at present to track an individual's motions through town. How many, but other communities do. And how many cameras would it take before we would reach that threshold? And is that where we're driving towards?
I think, let's take the growth of this town, where it's going. And when we talk about big projects, whether it's ZOM, Plain Street, all these big projects, you know, there's, for whatever it may be, B&Es to vehicles or things like this. If there's, say, 2 ways for people to come in and out, or Columbian Street where there's going to be one way in and one way out, if there was a camera at these locations and these crimes happening, it's going to make not every person that drives down Liberty Street, but someone who just comes in and out of, let's say, Columbian Street, maybe based on a timeline and what we think may have happened, it's just a great asset to have, okay, these are the cars that left during that possible time, and if we can locate these or talk to these people or whatever the case is part of the investigation, it's just a big asset for us to have, and I think it lends some security and a peace of mind to the people that live there as well.
Okay, thank you.
Councilor Maglio, did you have a follow-up on that?
I do.
Go right ahead.
That was actually going to be my deep dive as well, to follow up on the information that you had sent me earlier, and to once again thank you for sending it. And I appreciate, Councilor Flaherty, that you went over some of these areas. So my specific comment about this, I realize it's not in the budget in terms of there are no local funds that have gone for it. That may not be the case in the future. Once we have all of this apparatus, somebody's going to have to pay that fee. And a lot of the way Flock operates in a lot of the cities is that there's an upfront investment in towns and of equipment. And then at some point, there's different things that happen with those monitoring contracts. So it may not be something we're paying for now, but once we have that infrastructure set up, it may very well be something that we pay for in the future, so it's good to think about that. But my real, the more, I think the issue is you have done an excellent job of describing all of the safeguards and the system on our end, on the local end, the user side. The problem is that it's not about your department's intentions, it's about the other agencies that have access to that data. So federal agencies, unless there was a change, and this is what I was going to ask you, do we have the standard Flock contract, or did we get a change? Because about 75% of Flock's law enforcement customers, municipalities, are in the national lookup tool. So the concern isn't that someone on the Braintree Police Department is looking up who went speeding by the whatever incident. The concern is that someone in a centralized area from the federal government makes a request or actually uses that lookup tool. So what kind of feedback do you have about that?
Thank you for your question. I can say that as part of the exercise in preparing our responses to your previous inquiry, I can confirm without a doubt that we are not on any national register, or there is no ability for the federal government to access our data short of a court order to Flock or to the town of Braintree. So all of any sharing capabilities that we could have with the federal government have been turned off, and I can say that with certainty. So the federal government has no ability outside of a court order to see our data.
In court orders, with a court order, they could see anything.
Absolutely, they could with a court order.
So-
We have never been approached even casually by a federal agency for our data. It's just not an issue that has arisen to date, not to say that it couldn't. But as you mentioned, you said that, I think you said 75% of agencies that use Flock or some sort of LPR are on a national register, but I can confirm that the Braintree Police Department is not.
Okay, I'm really happy to hear that because even in an open records project that was covered in Massachusetts, there are 80 police departments in Massachusetts that are, that as part of the audit, that most departments are operating, 80 plus Massachusetts, the majority of them are operating under Flock's default agreement.
Correct.
So did we have an attorney actually change the contract with them?
It's not a contractual thing. It's actually a user-defined option. So I would venture to guess, and I can't say this for sure, but as many departments may not realize that that functionality exists. But I have the ability right now, if I had my laptop, I could go on and turn that on, because it is the user, the customer, Braintree Police as the customer, that makes that decision. All of our sharing, whether it's with Quincy or Holbrook or Randolph or the federal government, has to be approved by an administrator from the Braintree Police Department. And it's a reciprocal sharing agreement, but we have no sharing agreements with the federal government and do not intend to put any in place.
So if we're sharing with Quincy, Quincy may have an agreement to share beyond Quincy. So then that's where our data is then potentially available. So I don't want to belabor this, but I'm still concerned about the standard contract language and what kinds of, and I understand there's a lookup, and I understand it's everyone's good intentions on our end, on the user end, but as we see federal rights being taken away, this is being used in Home Depot parking lots to look at day workers. This is being used to track young women going for reproductive health care. And this is happening in other states. It's happening across the country. We want to make sure that we're not creating an opportunity for people to get swept up into that. And I understand that on our end, we're doing all of those things, but what we need is the proof from Flock. And it was within the past 4 months, I believe, and maybe this is something you could check and correct me on or validate, but that's when they centralized everything to make Flock made their data available to the feds. So
Flock may make their data available to the feds, but their data does not include our data. We own our data, and that is in the contract.
But we're not paying for it. So that actually is a complicating factor in that, because if we're not paying for it and someone else is, it's their data. We can try and turn off all the ways that it might leave our system, but we're not in charge of that back door.
Just for clarity's sake, can you expand upon what you mean by we're not paying for the data?
You just mentioned that we're not paying for any of these. We don't pay for the contract, the equipment, the cameras. We don't pay for that.
We do pay for it. We pay directly. It's just the funding sources are not taxpayer funds. So the town of Braintree issues a check to the vendor for this product.
From where does that?
The funding sources, so we might apply for a grant that includes LPR technology. Those grant funds are dispersed to the town of Braintree and maintained in our general ledger accounts and our bank accounts, and then we pay for it as an acceptable use according to the grant.
So that's public funding.
I just, with respect, I said no taxpayer, Braintree taxpayer money is being used, but in some of the grant money is private funding.
So companies that, like the owner, Flock Technology, they do a lot of subsidizing, right?
We don't receive any subsidies from Flock.
So then maybe we could get a sense of if there's a grant that's being written that is then coming into the general ledger and then Braintree is writing a check, I would say that is, we can follow the money and talk about its origination, but we could do that for a lot of things, and that doesn't remove it from the auspices of Braintree. So if we're paying for it, that's one thing. If we're not paying for it, that's a separate thing.
We are not funding it, but we are directly making the payment. One of the reasons that I specifically mentioned that Braintree taxpayer money is not being used for it isn't so much about the merits of the program, but because, as you can see, we've gone down this rabbit hole a little bit, and I think respectfully there might be a different venue that is more appropriate to discuss the merits of an LPR program than our budget hearing. But as I mentioned, we have put all the safeguards that we can in place, and we're very comfortable that those safeguards are being adhered to. So I do think that many of the questions that have been asked are also answered in that document that we provided, including all of the existing funding sources from which we get funding to maintain this program.
So respectfully, this is an opportunity to ask questions back and forth on the record, and it's videotaped, and we don't get any other opportunity to do this than now. And given the fact that that's a major part of what is a tool for our local police department, and we're looking at the police department budget, I find it very relevant to our conversation tonight. I appreciate the documents that you put together and sent to me. I reviewed them. I have additional questions. Other counselors have additional questions. And this is kind of an appropriate place to talk about where this might reveal vulnerabilities. And I'd be happy to continue this at another hearing. But for right now, in terms of the budget, I guess what we want to know is once we've gotten these grants, I don't know, are we writing these grants? Is this part of our grant initiative? Are you aware of that, Director Esmond? Like, how do we sort of track down these numbers? Because at a certain point, I anticipate it's going to come out of some line item in our budget.
So generally speaking, for all of our grants, and we can flip to Appendix 5. So this is a listing of all of our current grants, and none of these grants, except for the Law Enforcement Assistant Program, are dedicated exclusively to license plate readers or cameras. So, for example, the Burn SCIP grant, that is a broad grant that can cover a variety of different needs of a police department. So we've used it for ballistic armor in the past. We've used it for RAD training suits for the great RAD program, self-defense class that we put on for community members. So one small portion of that, the last time that we wrote this grant, we did request a portion of that to continue our LPR program for one more year.
For one more year.
Yes.
And who is writing the grants?
We don't have a dedicated grant writer within the department, but generally I have written some, Mary has helped, deputy chiefs have assisted, and we have an officer who has helped with a number of grants. But it's kind of a joint effort, if you will, kind of a grant team.
So that would be another area where Braintree taxpayer funds are involved because of the labor power and the ability to put grants together and to apply to them and track them and get them out. So again, I do want to respectfully underscore the importance of building up a certain set of technology that we don't pay for right now, but that we may well be paying for in the future, and we want to know what all the trade-offs are in terms of our not so much on the front line here or within the administration of the police department, but in where that data lives and who has access to it, court order, warrant, or not. Those are really important issues. So I will leave it at that and hope that we can continue to get more information about this and maybe Maybe this is something we could have another conversation on, or if there's additional information that you think I need to know, I'm happy to sit down with you and look it up. And then just the other question I was going to ask is the Family Services Unit, is that, you mentioned that that's an outside budget item? Are they listed, are they included in the 89?
They are funded through DMH.
Right, so is DMH funding in this, in our numbers?
It's in the, under the grants.
Okay, but is that in the 1.4 or 1.7 million?
No.
And just to further clarify, there are members of the Family Services Unit who are sworn personnel, like officers that work for the town of Braintree, and they are in our operating budget. They're found in Program 8 Special Services. The clinicians and the CIT TTAC, which handles the regional training for mental health, those are what are those positions are what is grant funded. And those two grants, or three grants rather, can also be found in Appendix 5. The Jail Diversion Program grant for $222,000, the DMH Crisis Intervention Team grant, $275,000, and a DMH backfill grant, which allows us to send non-FSU officers to these critical trainings, is $40,000.
Great, okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Reynolds.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And thank you, folks, for being here tonight, Chief, and the rest of your team. We appreciate it. You guys keep doing you folks keep doing a great job, and we appreciate it. Before I start asking specific questions about the budget, I just have one general question I want to ask Director Esmond. So I have noticed that each individual department has a budgeted amount for gas, electricity, et cetera, for utilities. And is there, and I understand that the town has, we had talked before about futures or getting into the consortium purchasing, correct? So is there one central record keeper, I guess, lack of a better term, for the budgeting of our utilities, specifically the natural resources and gas, oil, and electricity?
So in short, no. I think to get to your question directly, we don't have sort of a resource that oversees sort of everything from the biggest picture. You know, I do a little, we have other people that I could name, certainly in the police department. Ben Hulk at DPW plays a role. You know, other folks in facilities. We don't sort of have like a resource that's just devoted to like energy, sustainability, climate, those things. But what we do is collaborate around purchasing. So with the gasoline as an example, we do lock, we take essentially what happens, usually led by Ben Hulk over at DPW, over the highway. He will sort of look at usage over the course of a 12-month period and lock gasoline, so by volume, based on that.
By the town's overall use.
Correct. So the police department essentially will pay that rate. And then what happens is we get the bill. That bill is then sort of essentially, for lack of a better word, cut up and sent out every month or every billing period across the different departments. So almost all departments on the town side participate in that. Similarly with diesel fuel, through Ben, we'll also coordinate to lock a diesel fuel price. We have to lock at volume. It's not over a period of time, so there's always an effort to try to make sure we're getting how much volume we're going to have, how much we use. And one good thing is as we replace old equipment, we'll get some benefit on fuel efficiency there, or we move to electrify, we'll get some benefit on that. On natural gas, where I think you're also asking a little bit, Councilor, so we also can benefit from a similar approach if we, this is the other opportunity for us to lock supply. So this year, going back, I think, into the fall, but effective in December through next heating season, we worked with Power Options, which is a statewide energy consortium, to lock a natural gas commodity rate, which is usually about 50% of our monthly bill. We have no control necessarily over the delivery side, which is also facing a lot of cost pressure. But that is another opportunity. So essentially, I work primarily with the facilities team because they're the biggest by far. But we do lock the meters for the police department, for fire, library. I think there's 38 or 39 town meters across the,
For
for
meters.
natural gas meters.
For natural
So that's all our heating,
Is
essentially.
every building a natural gas heated, or are there still, I mean, I know some of the schools still use fuel, correct?
I think everything is now natural gas unless they're not heating with gas and they're small enough, or it's a garage or something, and there's no natural gas heating at all.
Okay, so there's the tracking that goes on, there's the metering at each individual building,
Yeah.
and then each one of these buildings, someone is tracking the burn rate, if you will, of the budget versus the actuals?
So, yeah, so the facilities team has a software that we have that we report, and we track the monthly consumption that that essentially each facility, it's attributable to each meter, so then rolled up to each building, so we can track that consumption for each building.
Great, and I don't want to spend this evening talking about this, we're here to talk
Sure.
about police matters, but if you could give me some information as a follow-up, how we did, based on how you described fiscal '25, if that's what the process that was used, and where we're tracking for fiscal '26.
Sure.
The actuals versus the budget, and I'm not asking for each individual department, but combined, I'm certain you've got those
Yeah,
numbers.
and it's I can get that for you, and I will say too, as we continue to close out the heating season, we are continuing to see the bills. This was a tough, challenging winter on top of another one. What we can show too is sort of the benefits of the lock. So I think it's essentially a 5% below the market, but the benefit will pay off in our projection for next year too, because the regulatory right now all indications is that the commodity component is going to come up again, which then works its way through delivery as well. So it's a challenging environment, probably the most challenging I've seen in a while, but we are making efforts. Sometimes the savings are about further cost avoided as opposed to necessarily from the prior year. But Councilor Reynolds, I'll get you that information.
Great, yeah, I myself, I feel that pain as as a oil heat user, this year in particular.
Sorry, Counselor, may I offer, I
Yeah.
think we're going to have the Q3 review soon. Could we add that? Would that be
Sure.
acceptable? And then we can wrap it into that
Yeah,
meeting and get
yeah,
a more
that'd be fine.
fulsome discussion?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you for
Great.
bringing that up.
Thank you, appreciate that. Now to the business at hand. So I've broken my questions into overhead, personnel, and operations. So my first question I'm going to ask about was just answered from the overhead half of it. The other half was building repairs. I know that every department, and particularly those who own their own building or operate within their own building, have a request in their budget for building repairs, but we also know that we have an umbrella department, the facilities, who also provides for earmarked monies in some of our larger facilities, one being the police headquarters building itself. So what would be the targeted amount for your budgeted building repairs? And is it a major, without getting into detail, is it a major, or is it something that's just more housekeeping and maintenance?
A couple of the major repairs is the switch to the generator. I think that actually got delivered today.
I'm sorry, could you just,
The switch to the generator.
emergency backup?
Yes.
Okay.
That has to be, I remember what that cost was.
And these are outside of your capital plan?
Yes.
Right. Okay. And is that what that line item predominantly pertains to? The $28,000?
Go ahead, Mary.
A lot of the expenses are related to our aging HVAC system, so
Okay.
that's going to take up a bulk of that budget.
So it's just kind of end-of-life type of things?
Correct, yeah.
Okay, I think you've answered my question. I don't need to get any more detail than that, but thank you, I appreciate that. That does it for my overhead. So my next question is personnel, and Parking enforcement and traffic units have always been one of my near and dear topics. I do see that you've got an increase this year in parking enforcement, and is that through a part-time officer?
Yes, it is.
Is that the utilization, somebody who's perhaps been a former police officer and retired? No?
Former special police officer.
Got it. Got it. Thank you. Because I do know that the districts and the business districts in our square, that is something that's very important, that has a direct impact on the amount of business and I guess the robustness that we would like to see that helps our coffers as a community as well. So there's that cycle, and parking's a really important part of it. The other part that I wanted to talk about too is traffic enforcement. I think you had made a mention in your goals about the traffic enforcement. Is there anything that you can think of? I mean, I'm looking for it right now.
We were able to add an additional officer to traffic this year. So there's two. There's a supervisor and a patrolman that are in traffic, and that's their full-time
Okay.
job. Ultimately, our goal would be to have 3 in there.
Okay.
But as of now, I mean, they do a tremendous job now. They're out there directing patrols wherever these complaints come in, neighborhood complaints, whether it's speeding. But traffic seems to be probably one of our largest concerns for the.
Sure, from a neighborhood standpoint, and Braintree being a cut-through town, and I think, I believe it's Officer Jenkins.
Yes.
He does an outstanding job. He's very responsive. He's very, he's informative. So I have not had any types of problems. However, the problem numbers are growing, and it's just something that I want to be able to keep an eye on as we look over the horizon and see how budgeting and your manning kind of match that need. So, and I know when you talk about policing, there are so many, let's just say that there are higher priorities of importance. It's not that it's not important of our traffic enforcement. It's really a quality of life issue that we all have to always keep our eyes on. Yep. Okay, thank you. Let's see, I think, let's see, animal control, we had some conversations about that. Harbor Master, we had conversations about that, so I don't have anything from a personnel standpoint on that. And let me just double check. I believe that is it for my personnel. So from an operations standpoint, my third line of questioning is, in your accomplishments for the fiscal year, you talked about a Flock Raven audio detection system. What is that?
The gunshot detection?
That's what that is called? It's the gunshot. I wasn't aware what the
Yes.
name was itself. Thank you. I also note that you did an excellent job in presenting to the council and to other town employees about the drone program. And that was a very, very impressive program. Do you find that that program is bearing the fruit or that you had anticipated? Is there, is the operational costs and the manning of that in line with what you anticipated?
Yes, so the drone unit, first of all, is not like a specific job for someone. It's an extra duty for members of patrol, detectives, whoever. There's what they call a Part 107 license that a pilot for an unmanned aircraft has to use. And it has paid off dividends for us, and it's not always for crimes too. It could be for, monitoring Braintree Day or large events, graduation, whatever it may be.
Missing persons?
Yep, everything,
Like
missing
the alert
persons.
we had last weekend, I believe.
Yeah, and
Okay.
we actually used it over the weekend up on the highway, trying to locate one of the suspects trying to cross the highway. So, because it does have it can do the infrared, it can get heat detection to find people that may be hunkered down in the woods. It's been a tremendous asset, and I think it's only going to grow.
Great. Well, I'm glad to hear that because I was very excited when you had that opportunity to show us how it worked and what your plans were for deploying that. On the body cams, so I do note that you have made it a goal that by 6/30/26 that all sworn personnel will be equipped with body cams. How is that proceeding?
We're still talking to a couple of vendors to see which vendor we'll go with, and we're currently in negotiations with the BPSOA and the BPOA towards agreeing to the policy, and we're getting very close.
Okay, so is that the near-term milestone that you refer to here? By the end
Yes.
of July is to have, excuse me, the end of June is to have that
To be able
contract?
to contract and purchase the,
Great. And then how long would it take for you to fully field them?
with training, it would probably get somewhere in the end of August, September timeframe to
Wow,
get people
that's quick.
trained.
Okay, great. Thank you. And I do note that you had taken some other, you're planning for other administrative-related and investigative-related and citizen request-related types of policies to be put in place. So I thank you for that, for anticipating. Firearms training. So firearms training, I'm looking here, and you don't have any money allocated for firearms training.
That is an old account. There were a number of officers, as a result of collective bargaining, that got a stipend upon completion of firearms training, but that no longer are any officers that stipend applies to, so it's been zeroed out.
Is that, do you mean by instructors?
No, it was for specific officers for having completed their annual qualifications. It's something from the contract that predates even my time as a police officer.
Okay.
But over the past, say, 9 years or so, there were about 3 officers it still applied to. But now there aren't any.
I understand. So the firearms training was not, it's not part of your annual readiness for your personnel, it was more of a contractual. Well, thank you.
It is part of our yearly in-service.
All right, thank you. So you understand to me
Yes.
that it's a little misleading to read, what? Nothing for firearms training. All right, thank you. Your answer really cleared that up for me. And actually, I think there was a related question to that. Yes, so for goal number 3 for FY27 is, one of the measurements is, so you're strengthening the departmental readiness through expanded training and updated equipment. I can't speak highly enough about the level of training the Braintree Police Department has dedicated itself to. And like yourself, Chief, as a former military, we understand the importance of training prevents bad performance. It prevents some of the events that we have seen in the media through the last few years in other departments around the state, around the country, where police officers did not handle situations in a manner that was both functionally efficient but legally efficient as well for those who were the subject of opposite the police officer. So this is an opportunity for me to say that because of that training, that is why we don't see those types of incidences in the Braintree Police Department. And that I would 100%, I like the fact that what I'm seeing here too is that de-escalation, additional training and certifications that are happening, along with the types of training that you do is really cause for an attaboy, I guess is one way of saying it. The ballistic equipment, to replace the current ballistic equipment that will be out of manufacturer warranty and or expired, is that more related to the previous ammunition question?
Not really. It's the equipment. It's basically the plate carriers that you would have within your vest.
I see.
And they do have an expiration date, and we have to replace them. They will stop, a rifle round. And But it's just one of the things we're working on, and we're trying to we're just setting up a plan so it's not a big expense all at once. We can replace them a little bit here, year to year to year, so that not everything isn't expiring at the same time and creating a huge cost. We're trying to just break it up so it's year to year. They still get replaced, but it doesn't have to be everything all at once.
So is this year, so let me ask this question. How long has the Braintree Police Department been wearing vests, protective vests?
For the ballistic vests, we've had them in our cruises for,
As a young police officer, did you?
well, we had our regular vests,
Okay.
since I've been on. So that's
Okay.
20-some odd years.
So this is a stepped up?
It's a stepped-up, yes.
Version?
It is. Yes, for instance, like a rifle round in our standard everyday vest isn't necessarily going to stop one of those rounds, like 5.56. But the plate carriers, they're probably, I don't know, half-inch thick, and that material. They're lighter. The newer ones are lighter as well, which is helpful. These guys wearing them, and but it will stop a rifle round.
And is this the first year that you'll be implementing these?
No, we're actually working on replacing some of them. It's not the first year we've had them.
Oh, okay, so this is this is a continuation.
And we're also investing in some new shields that are rifle rated as well.
And was it just a matter of inserting them in and out, or is it
It's just
vest?
a new, well, for the vests it is, a matter of taking the old ones out and putting new ones
Yeah.
in.
Okay, thank you. I don't want to,
Yeah.
really dive down on that, but, okay. And then, let's see, I do have just a couple more very quickly. Operations, firearms. Okay, my last question then, I think. Just go back. Okay. So this has to do with the budget itself. I did see that you have certain areas that have decreased its spending over last year. And I'm curious if these maybe are attributable to years in service for sworn personnel and the pay may be lower, but your detective bureau is down 7.7% over last year?
Yeah, in general, for the Detective Bureau specifically, there's one fewer detective budgeted versus
One
the
fewer?
prior year. So across the board, that program will be lower than the prior year.
Got it.
Current year.
Thank you. And then the harbor master question, never mind on that one, that was a mistake. Animal control is down. Wasn't there a new pen or something that was built in the last 5 years or so for animal control, a holding pen for?
Yes, it was probably 7 or 8 years ago.
Okay.
It was a collaborative effort with Weymouth.
Right.
So they contributed funds for us to renovate what historically was called the dog pound, but we'll call the animal control office. So they were able to replace all the kennels and sort of bring it up to date so that for the short periods of time that we may have to hold an animal, that the animals are safe, comfortable, well cared for, and that the animal control officer has a comfortable place to work.
Okay. That is all I have. Thank you. I appreciate your time for that and your answers. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Counselor Sterling?
Thank you, Madam Chair. And thank you, Chief Joseph and Officer Chambers and Mary for coming today and explaining and answering all our questions thoroughly and with your thought and thoughtful. And for your department, Chief, all your officers out there and all your employees for keeping the people of Braintree safe every day and working hard. We know it's a tough job, and you guys are out there doing it, men and women, every day. So we really appreciate that. And to go on I want to reiterate what Councilor Flaherty said with this appendices you gave us. These are amazing. These are awesome. You know, they answered a bunch of my questions I had already on why certain numbers were higher or lower with the details on the on the last column there. So I really appreciate that and the hard work you put into that. We know it took a lot of hours probably to do that. So on the staffing issue, I know you said we're at 83. Can you explain, I know we do get some transfers, what you guys do for outreach to try to get the right officers or right, people to apply for the job or and pass the tests, things like that?
So if it's through civil service, that exam is given every couple of years, and we get that civil service list, and civil service will rank those people. So if it's whatever, if we're calling for 4 officers and we get 20 names to try and to get applications for, do the backgrounds on, that is one avenue. Another one is the lateral transfers, and that's members from other departments that maybe are looking to move for one reason or another. And the same process applies as far as applications and backgrounds, interviews, and how that process works. In our newest pathway, which is Get Badged, it's kind of a hybrid, but if we are to take, say, 3 people off the civil service list, then we can hire 3 off Get Badged. The advantage to Get Badged is that some of them are already academy trained, and we get through their backgrounds. It's a lot shorter time to get them on the road and working, as opposed to the 6 months in the academy, the 12 more weeks. That year process is reduced to a few months.
And the hiring process, I could be missing it here, but you do it through the department and human resources here at Town Hall, or do you have your own human resources department that assists you with this?
I don't.
Town Hall?
Just Town HR, yeah.
Thank you. And one more question on the line items for police details. I'm looking at the sheet you gave us, Appendix 4. It does increase by almost $88,000. And you mentioned it's South Shore Plaza details only. Can you go into a little more detail on that, on why that's increasing and why that is being paid for by the town and not the assignment properties?
Sure, if I may. Thank you, Counselor. So it is a little abnormal that one particular type of detail would be in the operating budget. The town has a larger public safety mitigation agreement with Simon Properties, and part of that agreement is contributing towards the salaries and pay of the 2 officers and sergeant that are full-time assigned to the plaza, and then on holidays and some off hours and on weekends, we staff it with details that officers can sign up for. So it's the public safety agreement, the revenue is part of our revenue fund, and then a portion of that revenue is allocated for these details. And we calculate what we believe the expense of the details to be every couple of years when we negotiate a new contract with Simon Properties. So based on collective bargaining and where things stand now, we project that the detail rate may increase, and we thought it was important for that line to be reflective of our best guess of what that will be, rather than waiting until collective bargaining is ratified.
Yep. Thank you. That's all I have, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Sterling, and this has been a very helpful conversation and wide-ranging, and many of my questions have been answered by the questions of my colleagues. So I want to say thank you to the committee members, and also acknowledge that policing is probably one of the hardest jobs that I can think of, because you have to be basically perfect. You can't have a bad day, ever, because you carry a gun. And I want to acknowledge the weight of that job description. And thank you, because to Councilor Reynolds' point, I think the training that I've observed and what I've heard from residents is absolutely outstanding, and it's something that we should be proud of, because, again, this is a job where it's impossible to be perfect all the time, and yet that's what this job demands. So that should not go overlooked. I wanted to follow up on a couple of the questions from my colleagues on the council, excuse me. First, on the details, that answers one of my questions, but to follow on, does that take away from requested details that are being requested by other areas or other parties in town if they're being diverted to the plaza? How does that work?
Well, when the details go out, it goes out through a program we have called DTS, but it doesn't take away from, the plaza details don't take away from other details. People will bid on the details as they come in. Sometimes some details don't get filled, but when the details come in, based on hours, the officers will select what detail they'd like to put in for, and based on who has the fewest hours, they will get the particular details. But the plaza details don't overshadow someone else's detail, like a contractor's detail, the town's detail.
It's two discrete detail paths, if you will.
Yes.
Okay. All right, and then one of the issues we discussed at length last week with licensing and inspections was an understanding of fines and fees. And along those lines, what I'm wondering, and it doesn't have to be produced tonight, but you can tell me if it exists. So the first is, do we have a number of citations that were issued in the past year, whether it's fiscal year or calendar year?
We can get that for you.
Okay. To Councilor Reynolds' point about the squares and elsewhere in town, I've got anecdotal feedback, and that's why I'm looking for actual numbers, that ticketing and towing is not being enforced in no parking zones or extended parking zones. So I did look, and I will let residents know, because I think it's an awesome resource, that every single policy of the Braintree Police Department is available to you online. License plate readers, parking enforcement, jail diversion, it's all there. It's all transparent to the public. And in looking at the parking enforcement policy, my understanding is that it is our policy to warn and then ticket and then tow based on, violations.
Yes.
Is that accurate?
Yes, so it's doesn't necessarily have to be a warning. Typically, it is a warning, especially if the parking enforcement or one of the officers encounters it, and they can speak to that person at the time, great, and they move. If not, we can't locate that person, they can get a warning or a ticket, a money citation. And if it's, say, somebody we can't find, give the opportunity to try and locate them to move their vehicle, then yes, it can get towed.
Okay, so if residents are calling the non-emergency line to report a violation, a parking violation, what is the process for then getting that investigated? Can they submit a photograph through See-Click-Fix?
Well, if they have an area, but if they call the station and say, someone's parked in a handicap spot, for instance, we'll send an officer right up there to see if that's the case. Because maybe they have a placard, maybe they are handicapped, but they don't have it on their visor, on the dashboard where it should be. So it's visible so we can see that. But when people call about a parking violation, whether it's, fire lane, we go up there. We'll go to that, we'll respond to that call.
And is the parking enforcement officer on 7 days, or is there a parking enforcement officer on 7 days a week?
Well, he's 19 hours a week, right? Yeah, 19-hour-a-week employee.
He's 19 hours a week?
Yes.
Okay, so it would be a regular sector car that would be expected to
Yes.
check on the violation?
Mhm.
And that's your policy?
Yes.
Okay. That's helpful, because I only saw $24,000 in the budget for parking enforcement. Is that the salary or is that extra? That's the part-time?
Just that one individual.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, if one of you can get me the number of citations, and then is there a mechanism for collecting fines for the police department? So if you're ticketing somebody, they are charged, do we then get the money?
The treasurer's office collects
I'm sorry, I can't hear you, Mary.
the treasurer's office collects the fees.
Okay, the treasurer's office would collect the fine.
Yes.
Okay, that's very helpful. So if there's, and I want to also say, like, I fully acknowledge we're not like building revenue on fines. Like that is A, it's not a good idea, and B, we would never have enough. But if we can add that to the number of citations.
And that is specific just to the parking. If it's a
Yes.
speeding, stop sign violation, those fines do not come back here.
Those fines are
Those
not.
fines go to the state.
Those fines go to the state?
Yes.
Oh, interesting. Okay, thank you for that clarification. I did not know that. Very, very helpful. And then I think, actually, this is just more of a note. I'm curious. I saw that the matrons was cut down by 75%. Is that program going away?
It's not going away, but it is, actually, a lot of them have
Retired.
left.
Yeah.
Retired, or there hasn't been a lot of interest. But in our, over the past 3 years, the recruitment, we have so many women now working at the police department in patrol that are officers that it's reduced the need for them a lot of times because they can do the searches and the booking process without the need of a matron. If it's someone that we have to keep overnight or for a weekend or whatever the case may be, then oftentimes we will hire a matron, but it's really, honestly, it's not that often.
Well, yay, I'm happy to hear that. We have enough women police officers on the force to do that. That's awesome. Okay, and then I also want to celebrate the Project Childhood of the Mayor's Initiative and the BPD's role in that. So thank you for that. I think that is an outstanding community outreach initiative. Just one question on this acronym. Offer additional RAD training to BHS students. What is RAD
That's
training?
the RAD training. So it's for, yeah. Go ahead, Mary.
Somebody
It's the
tell
rate
me what it
regression
is.
training.
What is
So
it?
they put on the red suits and we train like women how to handle themselves. It's all part
Oh,
of,
that's great.
yeah, the high
So
school.
it's like self-defense?
Yeah, and we go
Oh.
all over, we help other towns help us when it comes to people having to wear these rad suits and help these, because they go at it and as if they're, and how to defend themselves, what they have to do to get out of it, how, it's great training. We get a lot of great feedback on it.
Well,
A lot of
that
great
might be
feedback.
something to consider expanding beyond the high school, so.
Well, we do. We go to other towns and we offer it to citizens.
Oh, okay,
As
great.
well.
Excellent.
We do. We're actually just purchasing
Yes.
a few new rad suits at the moment. If you'd like to be a part of it, we'd be happy to have you.
Yes, thank you.
All right.
Great. Again, I want to thank you to the team and to my colleagues on the council for asking such excellent questions this evening. Councilor Flaherty?
Just one final thing. To Officer Chambers' point about alternative venues for the discussion of LPRs, I'd like to refer the subject to the Town Council Public Safety Committee for further review. Can we do that?
Clerk Semino, can we take that? So, thank you.
Thank you. That's all.
Great. Any further questions for Braintree Police? Okay. Thank you so much, and thank you for staying late after the end of a regular workday. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay. I don't believe have any callbacks. We have 2 referrals, one for licenses and inspections, which we will take up with Ways and Means, one for Braintree Police Department, which we will take up with Public Safety. Are the committee members comfortable with that? And we can move to motions for the budget. Councilor Maglito, did you have a comment?
I do. I have a question. So those follow-up matters, the flock cameras and the municipal licensing, those aren't going to happen by the time that we need to vote on this budget.
The
Correct.
budget by statute, I believe, has to be voted on by June 30th. Is that right?
No, I
Or
think,
before then?
before then. I want to say by June 15th, but I probably
We
can
can
answer that
check the
in real time.
charter or MGL.
It's unlikely, though,
Yeah.
that there are going to be hearings between now and mid-June, right? Or is it possible? And the reason I'm asking is because I do think that those are really important issues to get more granular on. I don't know if it can happen before the budget. I don't know if there's some sort of assurance that as part of approving the budget, if it doesn't happen, that there's some kind of a timeline in early FY27. I just don't know how that really works. And those are areas that I'd really like to get more information on before approving some significant funding.
If I might respond to at least part of that, Counselor. So for the first part is procedurally, we can only cut the budget. So so I think that's something to like consider if these hearings would deem a budget cut in your mind. Would that, would getting the information that we desire result in requesting a budget cut? You don't have to answer that right now, but I think that's one question, because that's essentially the only power the council can have over the budget itself. But for Ways and Means, I can commit to you as the chair that I will, and I had a conversation with the clerk right before the meeting, we can look at calendars for the licensing and inspection meeting. I agree, I would like to have that before July, at least, because I don't want to get into the summer personally and have it languish. I can't make a call on the public safety one because I'm not on that committee.
Right.
And also, if we do move to the motions this evening, you could abstain this evening as well.
And if we do the motions this evening, there won't be any callbacks, essentially. It would take on these new steps. Okay. And is there a way to add to the motion to say we're approving them with the contingency around making sure we reach some kind of clarity? I don't know if that
I don't
is
think we can
something-
adjust the motions.
Sorry, Clerk Semino, is there?
I don't think so. Okay. Director Esmond, I mean, does this make sense, or?
I think the question you're asking would be probably not best answered by me. I think the charter is pretty clear on the abilities to act on the line item dollar amounts. Language in putting in modifications of language from the mayor's filed motions, that's probably not, I don't know that I would be able to answer that.
Councilor Reynolds, did you want to add?
Chair, I believe it is a full vote of the council that responds to an amendment in this particular case. So that being the case, the member could vote no this evening on a recommendation, but take up the motion at the 26th full council meeting and make that amendment that evening for consideration of the full council.
Gotcha. Okay.
Because we wouldn't have any, there wouldn't be any enforcement, I guess. If a committee made an amendment on a motion, in this case that the mayor made to the council, where we're advisory.
Okay. So then I think that makes sense. So we can proceed then tonight, get these things moving. I can abstain or vote no. If there's there's also time between
Yeah.
now and that meeting, now and when we have our final vote. So if there's some other amendment or some other resolution or information, I will, that makes sense. Okay.
Okay. Good question. I think it's important that everybody knows what we're voting on, because
Yeah.
it's better to ask than not know, so thank you. Any other comments before we move to the motions? There's a bunch. Everybody should have brought chocolate. Okay. Counselor Reynolds, with that, would you please begin reading the motions?
Motions 1 through 9?
Yes, please.
All right. Motions for the Town Council approval of fiscal year 2027 operating budget, that the Town of Braintree raise and appropriate the sum of $182,306,345 to provide for all the expenses for the maintenance and operation of the town's several departments and programs for the fiscal year 2027, and that several sums herein set forth are hereby approved for the several purposes and are subject to the source of funding for said expenditures as outlined in Exhibit A, specifically that the sum of $118,000 be transferred from all course receipts, that the sum of $300,000 be transferred from the overlay surplus account, that the sum of $25,500 be transferred from the sale of cemetery lots, that the sum of $1,140,000 be transferred from the water and sewer receipts, that the sum of $64,000 be transferred from the stormwater receipts, thus that the sum of $115,000 be transferred from the stabilization fund to the general fund, and the balance to be raised in the tax levy, which shall include $3,013,012 from the tax exclusion.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That is unanimous.
Abstention.
Abstained, one
Yeah,
abstain.
I'm going to abstain.
Okay. 2, that the Town of Braintree appropriate the sum of $2,317,873 to provide for all the expenses for the maintenance and operation of the town's golf course and related programs for the fiscal year 2027, and that several sums herein set forth are hereby approved for the several purposes as outlined on Exhibit A, specifically, in that the sum of $2,317,873 be raised in the golf course receipts.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous? Okay. Number 3?
Number 3, the Town of Braintree appropriate the sum of $28,909,075 to provide for all of the expenses for the maintenance and operation of the town's water and sewer division and related programs for the fiscal year 2027, including for the operations on the Tri-Town Water Treatment Plant, and that the several sums herein set forth are hereby approved for the several purposes as outlined on Exhibit A, specifically that the sum of $146,000 be transferred from the Water Sewer Rehabilitation Fund, that a sum of $4,293,897 shall be received from the Tri-Town Water District for plant operations, and the balance of $24,469,178 be raised in water and sewer receipts.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That is unanimous.
Number 4, that the Town of Braintree appropriate the sum of $1,715,007 to provide for all the expenses for the maintenance and operation of the town's stormwater division and related programs for the fiscal year 2027, and that several sums herein set forth are hereby approved for the several purposes as outlined in Exhibit A, specifically, and that the sum of $1,715,007 be raised in stormwater receipts.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That is unanimous.
5, that the Town of Braintree appropriate the sum of $540,000 to provide for all of the expenses for the maintenance and operation of the town's cable television, public, education, and government access and related programs for the fiscal year 2027, and that the several sums herein set forth are hereby approved for the several purposes outlined in Exhibit A, specifically, in that the sum of $540,000 be raised in the cable franchise fees receipts.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That is unanimous.
Number 6, pursuant to General Law, Chapter 44, Section 31D, the town is authorized to incur a liability in excess of the amount appropriated for snow and ice for fiscal year 2027.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That is unanimous.
7, that the sum of $650,000 be transferred from the sale of real estate fund 3502 to the general fund to reimburse the general fund for debt service for the East Middle School renovation, provided that such transfer shall occur no later than June 30, 2027.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
That is, any opposed? That is unanimous.
8, that the sum of $650,000 be transferred from the general fund to the Braintree Public School Educational Stabilization Fund, provided that such transfer shall occur no later than June 30, 2027.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That is unanimous.
9, that the sum of $100,000 be transferred from the overlay surplus account for the purposes of a town council operating reserve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That is unanimous. Okay, now we're going to move on to CPC.
Motion so.
26034, FY27 Budget Community Preservation Committee.
Okay, C1. In accordance with the provisions of Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 44B, Section 5, and the recommendation of the Community Preservation Committee that the sum of $150,000 be appropriated from the Community Preservation Fund to the Community Housing Reserve for the acquisition, creation, preservation, or support of community housing or the rehabilitation or restoration of community housing that is required or created as provided in Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 44B, Section 5.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That is unanimous.
C2, in accordance with the provisions of Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 44B, Section 5, and the recommendation of the Community Preservation Committee that the sum of $150,000 be appropriated from the Community Preservation Fund to the Open Space Reserve for the acquisition, creation, or preservation of open space or the rehabilitation or restoration of open space that is required, acquired, or created as provided in Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 44B, Section 5.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That is unanimous.
C3, in accordance with the provisions of Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 44B, Section 5, and the recommendation of the Community Preservation Committee that the sum of $150,000 be appropriated from the Community Preservation Fund to the Historic Resources Reserve for the acquisition, preservation, rehabilitation, or restoration of historic resources as provided in the Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 44B, Section 5.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That is unanimous.
C4, in accordance with the provisions of the Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 44B, Section 5, and the recommendation of the Community Preservation Committee that the sum of $781,251 be appropriated from the Community Preservation Fund to the Community Preservation Budgeted Reserve as provided in Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 44B, Section 5.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
That is unanimous.
C5, in accordance with the provisions of Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 44B, Section 5, and the recommendation of the Community Preservation Committee that the sum of $64,803 be appropriated from the Community Preservation Fund to the fiscal year 2027 Administrative Operating Fund as provided in Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 44B, Section 5, said funds to be expended under the direction of the Community Preservation Committee and by the Director of Planning and Community Development.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That is unanimous. Okay, moving on. Thank you, Council Reynolds. Moving on to 26035, Mayor FY27 Budget, continuation of revolving funds.
Motion for fiscal year 2027 continuation of revolving funds, R1, that in accordance with the provisions of Chapter 44, Section 53E and a half of the general laws, the town of Braintree hereby sets the maximum amount that may be spent during fiscal year 2027 beginning on July 1st, 2026 for the revolving funds established by ordinance for certain departments, boards, committees, agencies, or officers as follows. The Elder Affairs Services and Activities, Fund 3002, Department of Elder Affairs, $30,000. Immunization Fund 3001, Board of Health, $60,000. Library Materials Fund 3006, Library Trustees, $45,000. Library Room Rental Fund 3007, Library Trustees, $5,000. Recycling Materials Fund 3004, Mayor, in conjunction with Recycling Coordinator, $4,800. Household Hazardous Waste Fund 3005, Mayor, in conjunction with Recycling Coordinator, $50,000. Full-Day Kindergarten Fund 1008, School Committee, $1,100,000. Pro Shop Fund 7103, Mayor, in conjunction with Director of Golf Operations, $300,000. Food and Beverage Fund 7104, Mayor, in conjunction with Director of Golf Operations, $700,000. School Bus Fund 2011, School Committee, $600,000. Tree Replacement Fund 3013, Mayor, in conjunction with Department of Public Works, $100,000. Building Maintenance Fund 3014, Mayor, in conjunction with Department of Public Works, $200,000.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? That is unanimous. Okay. That wraps up all the motions. Thank you very much, Councilor Reynolds, for reading all those. We don't table this, right, Sue? Okay. So with that, we are concluding the Ways and Means budget hearings for FY 2027. Again, I want to thank my colleagues on this committee. It is a huge commitment, and it's not just the evenings, it's all the preparation and the follow-through. So thank you for all of the work and due diligence. And again, any residents who are interested in any of the departments, I recommend and urge you to watch the replay. Because thanks to our friends at BCAM, it can be at your convenience, streaming through BCAM's YouTube channel. So thank you to our BCAM team, Dave Maybrook, Bill Needham, for being with us throughout the entirety of these hearings. All right, our next meeting will be the full council meeting on Tuesday, May 27th at 7 p.m. May 26th. Thank you, May 26th, sorry. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? This meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everybody. Thank you. Yeah, that's Peter's broken desk. 26. Yeah.